Chapter 551. Ignoring Xie Shangzhou's exclamation, Lin Jie continued, in comparison, the two of you are much worse off. One of you hasn't found a girl that he likes yet, Lin Jie purposely emphasized on the word can, and after seeing Xie Shangzhou's frozen expression, he slowly turned his gaze back to Lu Benlai and said. The first one is someone who finally found a girl he likes, but it's already been a semester, and he still hasn't gotten her number. Hearing Lin Jie's words, Lu Benlai's expression turned as stiff as Xie Shangzhou's. Looking at the two silent figures in the video call, Lin Jie's mood suddenly lightened up. Right, I almost forgot to tell you that Yao Yao helped me change my bed sheets, undress me, and even helped me put on my clothes. Lu Benlai mechanically turned his head around to look at Xie Shangzhou, and in the next second, he unceremoniously scolded him. Who asked you to spout such a cheap mouth? Why did you come up with such a conclusion out of nowhere? Are you satisfied now? You must have been tortured, right? Xie Shangzhou wanted to retort, but he only managed to get one word out before he raised his hand and made a fake gesture to slap his own face. That's right. Who asked you to come up with a conclusion when you had nothing better to do? Are you satisfied now? You must have been tortured, right? On the other end of the video call, Lin Jie didn't seem to have any intention of letting the matter rest. After the two of them were done speaking, he continued, Oh, there's one more thing. I'm injured. So, as my roommates, you should pay me a visit at my place, right? I've already thought of the gifts you should bring. Old Xia, a nut gift bag, and old Lu, a cheesecake. Xie Shangzhou, Boss, when did you fall in love with eating these things? Lin Jie, it's not me, it's Yao Yao, Lu Benlai, the heck. Grandson, can you please shut up? Every time you open your mouth, you implicate me. It was just a moment ago that I was tortured, and now you're making me eat dog food. I really want to beat you to death, you unfilial bastard. Before Lu Benlai could finish his words, Lin Jie had already cleared his throat and replied, Oh. He had barely uttered a single word when Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou immediately chimed in. Lu Benlai, boss, my phone is out of battery. I'll hang up first. Xie Shangzhou, boss, I just remembered that I still have work to do. I have to work overtime. After which, before Lin Jie could say anything, the two of them left a goodbye, boss. Good night, boss, before cutting off the video call. After falling asleep, Shuyao had no idea how long she had slept for before she awoke from thirst. With her eyes half closed, she climbed out of bed, walked out of the bedroom, and headed for the dining room. In a daze, she poured herself a glass of water and gulped it down. Then she staggered toward the bedroom. The door to her room and Lin Jie's room was right next to each other. As she was simply too sleepy, her eyelids kept drooping as she made her way back to her bedroom. When she reached the door, she didn't even bother to check whether it was her bedroom or not before she pushed it open, closed it, and walked in. Shuyao walked up to the bed and fell headfirst onto it. The air conditioner was turned on, so the temperature in the room was a little low. Thus, Shuyao began searching for a blanket while she slept. She fumbled around for a long time but did not manage to find the blanket. Instead, she felt something soft and warm. Chapter 552. There Will Always Be Love. Chapter 553. Due to the cold, Shuyao didn't think too much about it. She moved closer to where her hand was and curled up into a ball to warm herself up. The room was very quiet. Feeling the warmth, Shuyao's body and mind quickly relaxed, and her breathing gradually became steady and long. Just as Shuyao was about to fall into a deep slumber, she vaguely heard the faint sound of a person's breathing. She opened her eyes in shock, and her consciousness cleared up a little. However, it only lasted for a short 10 seconds before her consciousness was overwhelmed by drowsiness once more. She thought that she was hallucinating, and her eyelids slowly closed. Just as she was about to close her eyes, she heard a light breathing sound once more. This time, it was much clearer than before. Xiao was certain that she wasn't dreaming, but due to her fatigue, her brain was moving a little slowly. Around half a minute later, she finally realized that the breathing sound meant that there was someone lying beside her. Then, she suddenly opened her eyes. Under the dim light of the room's bedside lamp, a face so handsome that it would leave one mesmerized came into view without any warning. She was right next to that handsome face. She was so close that she could see the wrinkles on that face. Xiao widened her eyes in shock as she stared at the side profile of Lin Jie's face for an entire minute. Only then did she reflexively move backward. It was only then that she realized that she had run right into Lin Jie's bed. Xiao's drowsiness vanished in an instant, and as if she had just received a huge shock, a realization flashed across her mind. In the next second, she rolled off the bed and onto the floor. Why did I run into Lin Jie's room? Walking into the wrong room in the middle of the night. Isn't this a little too frightening? Those who didn't know better might even think that she was intentionally throwing herself at him. What was even more frightening was that in her daze, she even touched Lin Jie. Not only did she touch him, she even moved her body to his side and pressed herself tightly against his body. The more Xiao thought about it, the more she felt her mind crumbling. Ignoring the pain she felt when she rolled off the bed, she immediately got up from the floor and prepared to leave. I've been in his room for a while now, but he hasn't said a word or moved at all. He's probably asleep, right? However, Lin Jie seemed to be sleeping rather soundly. With such thoughts in mind, Xiao, who was running out of the door, suddenly turned around to look behind her. Lin Jie lay motionlessly on the bed. He was only covered with a thin blanket, pressed against his abdomen. His injured right hand was placed outside. He looked very quiet, as if he was really in deep sleep. Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. She decided to keep the fact that she had walked into the wrong room as a secret that she would keep in her heart for the rest of her life. Of course, Xiao didn't dare to linger in the room for too long. She quickly retracted her gaze and quietly slipped out of the room. However, she had only taken 2 steps when she heard a muffled groan coming from behind her. Xiao halted her footsteps. It was quiet behind him again. She stood there for a moment, and after confirming that there was nothing wrong with her, she decided to raise her leg. However, before she could do so, Lin Jie harumphed coldly behind her. That voice was really strange. Chapter 554. As she got closer, Xiao realized that the sleeping Lin Jie's complexion was a little awful. His eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and the skin on his lips had dried up. His breathing seemed to be taking a lot of effort, as if he was struggling to catch his breath. Was Lin Jie having a nightmare? Or, without thinking too much into it, Xiao called out, Lin Jie. Lin Jie. She called out his name several times, but he didn't show any signs of waking up. Lin Jie. When Xiao called out his name once more, she couldn't help but reach out to touch his shoulder. Through his clothes, Xiao could clearly feel a scorching sensation. Her fingers trembled, and she instinctively retracted her hand. In the next instant, Xiao finally understood what was going on. She subconsciously reached out to touch Lin Jie's forehead, and she realized that his temperature was shockingly high. It was no wonder why she felt that there was something wrong with his voice earlier. It would be weird if he didn't feel uncomfortable with such a high fever. What else could she say? He's sleeping soundly. How is this sleeping soundly? He's clearly in a daze from the fever. As these thoughts flashed across Xiao's mind, she slowly recalled how warm he was and how she leaned against him. But that wasn't warmth at all, it was the heat from a high fever. Xiao tried calling out Lin Jie's name another 2 more times, but he still didn't show any signs of waking up. So, she ran to the bathroom and soaked a towel in cold water before wringing it dry. After which, she ran back to the bed and carefully folded the towel into a square before placing it on Lin Jie's forehead. After doing a simple physical cooling for Lin Jie, Shuyao ran back to her bedroom and changed back into the clothes she had changed out of during the shower. After which, she grabbed Lin Jie's car keys and headed to the underground parking lot. After exiting the neighborhood, Shuyao drove for less than 5 minutes before she saw a 24-hour pharmacy by the roadside. She quickly stepped on the brakes. A second after the car came to a halt, she got out and rushed into the pharmacy. After buying a thermometer and fever medicine, Shuyao decided to ask the owner of the pharmacy for help when she was paying the bill. The owner was very enthusiastic, and he told her how to cool down her fever if it didn't subside. After thanking him, Shuyao grabbed a bottle of alcohol and a bag of cotton balls before leaving the pharmacy and rushing back to Lin Jie's house. After closing the door to the living room, Shuyao removed her shoes and ran to Lin Jie's bedroom. She stretched out her finger to feel his breathing, and after confirming that his breathing was normal, she heaved a sigh of relief. She took the warm towel from his forehead and took it back to the bathroom to soak it in cold water before placing it back on Lin Jie's forehead. Shuyao took out the thermometer and stuffed it into Lin Jie's mouth before heading to the dining room. Not too long later, Shuyao returned with a cup of water in hand. She placed the bottle of water on the bedside table and took out the fever medicine. After reading through the instruction manual, she realized that 3 minutes had already passed. Thus, she took the thermometer from Lin Jie's mouth and raised it to her eyes to take a look at the result. 39 degrees Celsius. His fever was so high. No wonder he didn't react when she rolled off his bed and made such a loud noise. With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao took out the fever medicine. She stuffed the medicine into his mouth and picked up the glass of water. Chapter 555. I can't go on like this. No matter what, I have to take the medicine. Shuyao tried a few more times to feed Lin Jie water, but it was to no avail. She suddenly recalled a web drama she'd watched at home during her winter break. The male and female leads in the drama were both celebrities, and the male lead was the best actor in the film. When he had a fever, the female lead had to take care of him. It was a little similar to the current situation between her and Lin Jie. The medicine wouldn't go down his throat no matter how hard she tried, and in a moment of desperation, the female lead had to force the medicine down his throat by mouth to mouth. Was she going to feed Lin Jie medicine like that too? Just the thought alone made Shuyao's face redden. After a moment of hesitation, she tried feeding Lin Jie water once more. This time, not only did the water not go down his throat, he even spat out the medicine that she'd worked so hard to stuff into his mouth. Frowning, Shuyao quickly grabbed a napkin and wiped away the water and medicine from the corner of Lin Jie's mouth. After which, she stared at his slightly pale lips for a moment before gritting her teeth and taking out the fever medicine once more. After stuffing the fever medicine into Lin Jie's mouth, Shuyao raised the cup of water and gulped down a mouthful. After which, she leaned forward and pressed her lips against Lin Jie's lips, using the tip of her tongue to pry open his lips and slowly dripped the water into his mouth. In order to ensure that the medicine would enter Lin Jie's stomach smoothly, Shuyao even used the tip of her finger to push the medicine into his mouth as she fed him water. As Shuyao was pressing her lips against Lin Jie's, he managed to swallow most of the water, and even the medicine was flushed down his throat. However, as Shuyao wasn't aware of the situation, she was afraid that the medicine might be stuck somewhere, preventing him from swallowing it. So, after Lin Jie had swallowed all of the water in his mouth, she used the tip of her finger to scan his mouth to ensure that there wasn't any medicine inside. Only then did she finally stop her actions. After ending his video call with Liu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou, Lin Jiej lay on his bed, reminiscing about everything that had happened that night from start to end. And as expected, he entered the bathroom for the 5th time. When he came out, Lin Jiej started sneezing non-stop. It was too late. Feeling a little unwell, he fell asleep after lying on the bed for a short while. In a daze, he felt that his whole body was very hot, and it was a little difficult to breathe. His throat was sore and dry. He vaguely knew that he had a fever, but his whole body was so tired and uncomfortable that he couldn't open his eyes. He fell asleep just like that. After an unknown period of time, he felt a cool sensation on his forehead, which made him feel much more comfortable in the high temperature. Then, there was water in his dry and painful throat, but the taste of the water was slightly bitter. Perhaps it was the effect of the water and the coolness of his forehead that made him slightly more conscious. He felt a touch of softness across his lips and teeth, bringing with it a numbing and stimulating pleasure. Even though he was still in a daze, he could still tell that the softness belonged to soft bun. He thought that he was having some kind of romantic dream, so he allowed himself to be immersed in it, unable to extricate himself. However, this beautiful dream only lasted for a very, very short moment before she left him. Chapter 556. As this thought flashed across Lin Jiej's mind, without any hesitation, he caught hold of Shi Yao's lips and kissed them fiercely. Shi Yao, who had already left Lin Jiej's lips, was shocked by his sudden action. She froze on the spot, unable to react at all. She allowed Lin Jiej to kiss her as he pleased for quite a while before she slowly realized what they were doing at that very moment. Shi Yao subconsciously began to struggle, trying to break free from Lin Jiej's kiss. Her resistance and evasion made the frown on Lin Jiej's forehead deepen. He thought that he was still in a dream. Is it because she doesn't like me? Even in his dreams, he would subconsciously imagine the scene of her rejecting him. He wouldn't force her, and he couldn't bear to force her. But in his dreams, why don't I be selfish just this once? Just this once. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej raised his left hand, and with a slightly trembling hand, he forcefully grabbed the back of Shi Yao's head and deepened the kiss. Compared to before, Lin Jiej's kiss this time was domineering and decisive. It felt as if he was going to swallow her whole. Shi Yao had never been kissed in such a manner before. She was both shocked and shocked at the same time. Her eyes widened as she stared blankly at Lin Jiej's long and alluring eyelashes. Her mind was completely blank. He used all of his strength to grind against the corner of her lips. Then, as if feeling that it wasn't enough, he pried open her teeth and barged in. He wrapped his lips around her and kissed her deeply. The room was extremely quiet, so quiet that Shi Yao could hear his heavy and hurried breathing, as well as the intimate sounds of their kisses that could make one's heart race. As these voices continued to drill into Shi Yao's ears, she could clearly feel his hand slowly moving downward, eventually landing on her waist. He pulled her tightly into his embrace, and his strength was so domineering that she nearly suffocated from the suffocation. This kind of kiss lasted for an unknown period of time. It was only when Shi Yao's entire body felt light that Lin Jiej finally let go of her. His breathing had become even more unsteady than before. He seemed to feel that it wasn't enough. His lips stayed on her lips for a little while before he moved down the corner of her lips to her chin and moved all the way down. It was only when his breath landed on her collarbone that Shi Yao realized that the two of them seemed to have gone way too far. Just as his scorching lips were about to reach her neck, she hurriedly called out. Lin Jiej, don't do this. As if he hadn't heard her voice, he bit down hard on her skin. It was a little painful, but there was also an indescribable excitement. This unfamiliar feeling made Shi Yao's entire body shudder, and she panicked even more. Lin Jiej, let go of me. Lin Jiej, perhaps her repeated rejections made him unhappy. He suddenly flipped over and pressed her under his body. Then he lowered his head and buried his face in her neck. His weight and dominance made Xiuyao fearful. She pushed and dodged him, but not only did she fail to escape from him, she even made him even more frenzied. Every kiss he gave her felt like he was going to devour her alive. Chapter 557. Lin Jie. After Xiuyao had called out Lin Jie's name for the umpteenth time, the frenzied man finally calmed down. He didn't leave her body immediately. He lay on her shoulder, panting heavily. His chest rose and fell, and his eyes were closed. His brows were still flowing with messiness and passion that hadn't calmed down. Even if it was just a dream, even if he had decided to be willful just this once, he still couldn't help but force himself to stop when he heard her soft and pitiful voice. Even if it was just an illusion, he couldn't bear to force her to do something she didn't want to do. Even if he really wanted her, even if he was in great pain. Lin Jie waited for the raging passion in his body to subside before he slowly raised his head and planted a very gentle kiss on her forehead. After that, he flipped over and left her body. The weight on her body disappeared, and Xiuyao heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't dare to linger on the bed for too long. She quickly got off the bed and ran out of Lin Jie's bedroom as if she was running for her life. After closing the door to Lin Jie's bedroom, Xiuyao felt as if her entire body had collapsed. She leaned against the wall, completely motionless. A long while later, she gently raised her hand and pressed it against her chest. It was then that she realized that her heart was beating really quickly. Alone in the living room, Xiuyao fell into a daze for a long time before she finally regained her senses. She was still a little fearful of what had just happened. She wanted to return to her room to rest, but when she thought about his high fever, she couldn't help but feel a little worried. She paced back and forth in front of the door, conflicted for a moment. Eventually, she pushed the door open slightly and peeked her head in to assess the situation in the room. Lin Jie was lying motionlessly on the bed. When she fed him the medicine earlier, she had turned on the lights in the room, and the bright light allowed her to see the expression on his face. It was very calm, as if he had fallen asleep. Only then did Xiuyao dare to step into the bedroom. She walked up to the bed and touched Lin Jie's head. It was still burning. The boss of the pharmacy had told her that if the fever persisted, she would have to send him to the hospital for a checkup. So, Xiuyao decided to pull a chair over and sit by Lin Jie's bedside. Afraid that she would fall asleep, Xiuyao's eyes darted around her, and eventually, her gaze fell on Lin Jie's face. She stared at him for a while, and the scene of him pressing her under his body and kissing her passionately appeared in her mind. Xiuyao's face reddened, and she quickly averted her gaze. A few minutes later, Xiuyao reached out to touch Lin Jie's forehead, but his fever still showed no signs of subsiding. She couldn't help but look at the time on the wall. It had been about 2 hours since she took the medicine. The medicine should have taken effect long ago. Why hadn't the fever subsided yet? Xiuyao recalled the method the pharmacy owner had told her to rub alcohol on her body to cool it down. She struggled for a moment, but in the end, she still unbuttoned Lin Jie's shirt, picked up some cotton balls and alcohol, and began wiping his body clean. Xiuyao's face began to heat up once more. After she was done, she looked out of the window and calmed down. Chapter 558. Xiuyao's worried heart finally calmed down. Having spent most of the night taking care of Lin Jie, Xiuyao couldn't help but lie down on the edge of the bed. Worried that Lin Jie would suddenly run a fever again, she would raise her hand to touch his forehead from time to time. She had no idea how many times she had checked Lin Jie's temperature, but she knew that on the last try, Lin Jie's temperature had returned to normal. Then, she heaved a sigh of relief, and she didn't even have the strength to return to her room. She simply lay down on the edge of the bed and fell asleep. The next day, when Lin Jie opened his eyes, the sun was already shining brightly outside. It was already noon. He felt like he had experienced many things while he was asleep, but he couldn't recall what they were. Out of habit, the first thing he did after waking up was to reach for his phone. But as soon as he raised his hand, he came into contact with something soft and delicate. Frowning, he turned his head over and saw Xiaoyao lying on the edge of the bed, sleeping soundly with her arms as her pillow. Why would Soft Bun be sleeping by his bed? Lin Jie was stunned for a moment before he began scanning his surroundings. The fever medicine on the bedside table, a glass that was less than a quarter full of water, a half-wet towel, an alcohol bottle, a cotton ball. Everything fell into Lin Jie's line of sight, and he instantly understood everything. When he was sleeping last night, he felt that his body wasn't feeling well. So, did he suffer from a high fever in the middle of the night? He hadn't stayed in this house much, so there wasn't any medicine in the house. In other words, Soft Bun had gone out to buy medicine for him in the middle of the night. An indescribable ecstasy swiftly engulfed Lin Jie's heart, causing his lips and eyes to curl up uncontrollably into a smile. Didn't this mean that Soft Bun was actually very concerned about him? He had to report the situation to those two fellows in room 501 so that they would know just how big of a difference there was between him and those two single dogs. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie picked up his phone and started typing. While he was typing on the keyboard, he suddenly paused and grinned for a moment before continuing on with his typing. Just as he was about to finish typing, a question suddenly occurred to him. He and Soft Bun slept in different rooms, so how did she know that he had a fever in the middle of the night? Could it be that Soft Bun had sneaked into his room in the middle of the night? The possibility of that seemed to be zero. He must have been daydreaming. He was probably asking for help because his fever was unbearable. In his mind, Lin Jie imagined himself screaming for help non-stop, and he suddenly felt extremely embarrassed. But then again, Soft Bun must be exhausted after standing guard for an entire night, right? Lin Jie's gaze fell on Xiaoyao's face, and deep heartache surfaced in his eyes. He stared at Xiaoyao's sleeping face for a moment, and he couldn't help but reach out to touch her cheek. However, before his fingertips could touch her skin, Xiaoyao opened her eyes and changed her position, probably due to the discomfort of sleeping on her stomach. Then, upon seeing that Lin Jie had woken up, she closed her eyes for 2 seconds before opening them once more. "You're awake?" Xiaoyao asked as she reached out to touch Lin Jie's forehead. "Your fever is finally gone." Lin Jie's body tensed up from Xiaoyao's touch. He waited for her to retract her hand, and roughly half a minute later, he finally spoke with a calm voice. "Last night, you..." But barely after he said those 3 words, the image of him pressing her beneath his body and kissing her passionately. Chapter 559. But barely after he said those 3 words, the image of him pressing her beneath him and kissing her passionately and madly flashed across his mind. Lin Jie subconsciously frowned, and the words that he was about to say disappeared from his lips. It seemed like she was the one who took the initiative to kiss him, but a very short moment later, she retracted her lips. Following which, he turned from defense to offense and captured her lips. She struggled, but he held her head firmly in place and deepened the kiss. Toward the end, he wanted more, so his lips landed on her neck and slid downwards. Perhaps it was because he had gone too crazy and scared her, but she begged him softly and helplessly, saying something like, "Lin Jie, please don't do this." His heart throbbed in pain, and he didn't dare to touch her anymore. These scenes were so real. So real that when he recalled them, he could still vaguely remember the stimulating and numbing feeling the scenes gave him. It couldn't possibly be real, could it? Lin Jie couldn't tell if he was dreaming or if he was really messing around due to his fever. He was conflicted for a moment before he finally turned his gaze to Xiaoyao's face and asked, "Last night? Did I? For a moment, Lin Jie was at a loss for words, and he stumbled. Yao didn't quite understand what Lin Jie was getting at, so she blinked her eyes at him curiously and asked with a gentle voice, "Did you do anything? Did you? Did you?" Lin Jie's head swiftly whirled around as he picked out a more reserved question. "Why did you? Why did you? What do you mean by that?" Yao stared at Lin Jie in bewilderment for a moment, but when she saw Lin Jie's slightly reddened ears, she suddenly understood what he was referring to. Her face immediately reddened as well, and without any hesitation, she shook her head and said, "No, I didn't. What happened last night was simply too awkward." Since he asked such a question, it could only mean that he didn't remember it clearly either. This was exactly what she wanted. Let's just pretend that nothing had happened. Lin Jie stared at Yao for a moment, and he didn't think that she was lying. Could it be that the scene from last night was just a dream? Ever since he fell in love with her, he had dreamt of her at night, but the scenes were more or less illusory. However, last night was too realistic. In the end, Lin Jie was still a little worried. Or rather, he was afraid that his actions would affect her impression of him. So, he pondered for a moment before asking once more, "Are you sure?" "There really isn't." Yao rarely lied, and it was fortunate that their conversation was a little ambiguous at the moment, so her face wouldn't show any signs of redness. Thus, she rejoiced inwardly. Then, in order to make herself look confident, she added on a seemingly fierce but actually harmless tone, "Besides, if it's really true, I'll just go home and ignore you." Lin Jie feigned anger at Yao and said, all right, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's think about what we're going to eat for lunch instead." Chapter 560. No problem. Lin Jie took out his phone and gave a call to China World Hotel Beijing. "Is there anything else you'd like to eat?" Yao counted on her fingers: steamed shrimp egg, Shenjing roast goose, Yuxiang shredded pork, sweet and sour pork ribs. Lin Jie repeated the names of the dishes Yao had mentioned to the person on the other end of the call. While Lin Jie was recording down the address, Yao suddenly remembered that she hadn't washed up yet, so she ran to the bedroom next door to brush her teeth and wash her face. By the time Lin Jie hung up the call, Yao still hadn't returned. He wasn't in a hurry to get out of bed. Instead, his gaze fell on the spot where Yao had been lying earlier. Even though she wasn't there anymore, he could still picture her sleeping figure before his eyes. His brows and eyes became somewhat warm and soft. A moment later, he suddenly said, "I should have known." As he said those words, the gentleness in his eyes was masked by a faint layer of sorrow. Yao hadn't closed the door to Lin Jie's bedroom when she left, so she didn't make a sound when she returned. Lin Jie, who was in a daze, didn't notice her. She was intending to head to the bathroom to help Lin Jie squeeze out some toothpaste, but when she passed by the bedside, she heard Lin Jie's voice. She instinctively turned to look at him and asked, "What is it?" Hearing her voice, Lin Jie swiftly came back to his senses. He lowered his eyelids to conceal the emotions in his eyes before turning back to Yao. As if he hadn't said anything at all, he replied with an indifferent tone, "It's nothing." "Oh." Yao replied. She continued staring at Lin Jie for a while longer, and seeing that there wasn't anything amiss with him, she thought that the hint of sorrow she had felt earlier was just her imagination. So, she pointed to the bathroom behind her and said, "I'll help you squeeze out some toothpaste. Hurry up and wash up." Lin Jie replied with an before falling silent. Yao turned around and headed into the bathroom. Lin Jie stared at her back for a while before lowering his head slightly. "I should have known. How could those scenes be real? How could she have kissed him on her own accord? That was a scene that would only appear in his dreams." Not too long after the two of them were done washing up, China World Hotel Beijing delivered the dishes that Lin Jie had ordered. The dining table was extremely quiet. From time to time, Lin Jiej would glance at Shi Yao, who was eating with gusto. Lin Jiej casually asked about the matter that he had been perplexed about back then, but he had forgotten about it due to those alluring scenes. Oh right, did I have a fever last night? With her mouth full, Shi Yao nodded her head vehemently in response to Lin Jiej's question. In truth, he already knew the answer to this question. So, after hearing Shi Yao's reply, he replied with a nonchalant, "Oh," before getting straight to the point. "How did you know that I had a fever last night?" Shi Yao was in the midst of drinking her soup when she heard those words, and she suddenly choked on her soup. With a reddened face, she began coughing violently. When Shi Yao finally regained her senses, she saw a napkin in front of her. After thanking him, she took the napkin from Lin Jiej's hand and wiped her mouth. After which, a conflicted look appeared on her face. Lin Jiej's question was a little difficult to answer. Chapter 561. Shi Yao rarely lied, so it took her a lot of effort before she finally found a decent excuse. "Last night, I was a little thirsty, so when I got up to get some water, I heard some noises coming from your room." Hearing those words, Lin Jiej's heart jolted in shock. "It can't be that I called for help due to my high fever, right?" Lin Jiej tried his best to maintain his composure. "What noises? Do you have to ask so many questions?" Shi Yao, who hadn't thought about such details before, couldn't help but feel a little guilty. However, Shi Yao understood the logic of "those who haven't eaten pork haven't seen a pig run." Even though it was rare for her to lie, she knew that since she was lying, she had to act as if she was in the right. With such thoughts in mind, she desperately tried to maintain the composure on her face as she said, "It's just the sound of coughing." A few times, Lin Jiej nodded in relief. "Is that so?" Perhaps it was because she was lying, but Shi Yao felt that those 3 words sounded a little weird. She discreetly grasped the chopsticks in her hands and rolled her eyes before continuing, "That's right, that's how it is. Actually, I didn't think too much about it at the start. It's only because you were injured that the doctor told me to keep an eye on you, so I knocked on your door to check if you were all right. However, after knocking for a long time, you didn't respond at all. I thought that something had happened to you, so I pushed the door open and barged in without permission. In the end, I realized that your fever was really bad, just like boiled beef slices." Boiled beef slices, Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej's analogy sounded really like Shi Yao's. After confirming from Shi Yao's words that he hadn't called for help last night, Lin Jiej didn't dwell on Shi Yao's analogy for too long before speaking up once more. "Then I really have to thank you for last night. If you hadn't paid attention to me, I might still be suffering from a high fever." Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Shi Yao knew that she had managed to get away with it. "It's fine. I stayed behind to take care of you anyway." Lin Jiej picked up a piece of boiled meat and gestured for her to eat while it was still hot. Shi Yao replied with a soft, "Thank you," before lowering her head to dig into her food. Lin Jiej watched as Shi Yao continued eating, and he calmed himself down. "So, it's just a cough. Thank goodness, at least my image isn't ruined." When Lin Jiej finally retracted his gaze and lowered his head to continue eating, Shi Yao discreetly raised her eyes to look at Lin Jiej. Seeing that his expression was as calm as ever, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. It turns out that Lin Jiej is actually so gullible. "It's fortunate that I'm smart enough." After dinner, Shi Yao cleaned up the leftovers on the table before making a trip back to school. Ling Yuan, Jiang Yu, and He Tian were all in the dormitory room. As soon as Shi Yao entered, the first thing she did was to check on Ling Yuan. Other than the slight bruise on the corner of her lips and the slight redness on her face, the latter had already reverted back to her usual calm and composed self. Worried that something might happen to Lin Jiej at home, Shi Yao didn't linger in the dormitory room for too long. She packed up some clothes, grabbed her phone, and left the academy. After returning to Lin Jie's house, the first thing Shi Yao did after changing out of her shoes was to head over to Lin Jie's house to take a look. Perhaps it was because of the fever he had last night, but he hadn't fully recovered. After she left, he fell asleep on the bed again. Chapter 562. Shi Yao had spent the entire night taking care of Lin Jie, so she didn't get much sleep, and neither did she sleep well. Seeing that Lin Jie had fallen asleep without a blanket in the air-conditioned room, she walked over to the side of the bed, pulled the blanket over him, and gently placed it on his forehead. After confirming that his body temperature was normal, she tiptoed out of the bedroom, closed the door behind her, and headed to the next room to catch up on her sleep. Shi Yao slept deeply and for a long time. By the time she woke up, the sky had already darkened. Shi Yao abruptly sat up, picked up her phone, and took a look at the time. It was already 8:00 in the evening. I've actually slept for 5 hours. Has Lin Jie woken up yet? Did he encounter any trouble after waking up? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao hurriedly tossed her phone aside, leaped out of bed, and ran out of the room without even putting on her shoes. Out of habit, she headed to the next room, but just as she was about to reach the door, she caught sight of Lin Jie, who had woken up at some point in time, sitting on the sofa. She subconsciously stopped what she was doing and turned her head to take a look. The young man was sitting leisurely on the sofa with a laptop placed on his knees. His uninjured left hand was swiftly tapping on the keyboard from time to time. Is he busy with something? This is the first time I've seen him busy. Shi Yao was just about to ask Lin Jie what he was having for dinner, but the words vanished from her lips. She couldn't help but stare at the focused Lin Jie. Perhaps sensing that someone was looking at him, Lin Jie casually raised his head to glance in the direction of the bedroom after tapping on the keyboard with his left hand. When he saw Shi Yao, he was just about to retract his gaze when he abruptly froze. "You're awake?" Lin Jie asked softly. Without waiting for Shi Yao's reply, he added, "Give me a moment." As he said those words, he lowered his head to look at the laptop screen before tapping on the keyboard once more. But this time, after knocking a few times, he suddenly raised his head and glanced in Shi Yao's direction. His gaze eventually fell on Shi Yao's bare feet. A slight frown appeared on his forehead. "Why did you run out just like that?" For a moment, Shi Yao couldn't understand what Lin Jie was referring to, so she replied with a confused, "Forget it, I'll deal with the remaining projects later." With this thought in mind, Lin Jie placed his laptop by the side and stood up to walk over to Shi Yao. Shi Yao thought that Lin Jie was going to stop right in front of her, but instead, her gaze followed him all the way to the bedroom she'd been sleeping in before circling around her. Just as Shi Yao was about to ask Lin Jie what was going on, she saw Lin Jie bending down to pick up the slippers that she had kicked all over the place. So, what did he mean when he asked her just now? Was he referring to her not wearing shoes? While Shi Yao was still in a daze, Lin Jie had already bent down to place the slippers in front of her and said, "Put them on. You might catch a cold." He was supposed to be busy, but when he saw that she wasn't wearing any shoes, he put down his computer and came to get her shoes for her. For some reason, Shi Yao was moved by such a small detail. She didn't react to Lin Jie's words at all. Instead, she lowered her head and stared blankly at the bent Lin Jie. Seeing that the young lady wasn't reacting, Lin Jie squatted down, grabbed her ankle, and placed the slippers on her feet. Chapter 563. His fingertips were very warm, and when they came into contact with Shi Yao's slightly cold ankle, she couldn't help but shudder a little before snapping out of her thoughts. "Let me," Shi Yao subconsciously said, but before she could finish her words, Lin Jie had already helped her put on her slippers, so she could only change her words. "Thank you." Lin Jie shot a glance at Shi Yao, but he wasn't in a hurry to speak. Instead, he stood up, lowered his head, and asked softly, "Are you hungry? Is there anything you'd like to eat?" Just like in the afternoon, Yao tilted her head to the side and pondered for a moment before reciting a list of dishes. Lin Jiej's phone wasn't with him, but he didn't interrupt her either. After she was done, he walked over to the sofa, picked up his phone, and dialed a number. After which, he repeated the list of dishes Yao had recited without missing a single word. Just like in the afternoon, after dinner, Yao was the one to clear the dining table. By the time she walked out of the dining room, the living room was empty. Lin Jiej was nowhere to be seen. Along with him, his laptop was also nowhere to be seen. Yao knew that Lin Jiej had probably gone to his study or bedroom to work, so she didn't disturb him and returned to her own bedroom. Yao hadn't looked at her phone since last night, so she lay on her bed and began replying to WeChat. Around 9:00 last night, less than 111,111 had left her a message, "Are you playing?" Even though it had already been 24 hours, Yao still replied with a message, "I was busy last night, so I didn't check my phone." There was no reply. A moment later, Yao sent another message, "Are you playing?" This time, Mr. Numbers responded to her message, "I might not be able to play for a while." Yao thought that Mr. Numbers would be busy like he had been for the past 2 months, so she asked, "Are you busy again?" Less than 111,111, that's not it. Less than 111,111, my hand is injured. My hand is injured. What a coincidence, it's the same as Lin Jiej. With such thoughts in mind, Yao sent out the words in her heart, "What a coincidence. My fiancé's hand is injured too." After replying to Yao's message, Lin Jiej put down his phone and continued working on his project single-handedly. At this moment, his phone screen lit up once more, and after he finished typing his message, he picked up his phone to take a look. When he saw the words of "my fiancé," the serious look in his eyes immediately softened. After a while, a new message popped up on his phone screen. "Yao loves ice cream. How did you get injured? Is it serious?" Lin Jiej typed, "It's alright, it's not that serious." After a moment of contemplation, Lin Jiej added, "I got injured in a car accident." So, Mr. Numbers had been in a car accident. Unlike Lin Jiej, he was injured in a fight. With such thoughts in mind, Yao replied to less than 111,111, "Take good care of yourself then. We'll play again after you've recovered." 111,111. After chatting with Mr. Numbers for some time, Yao knew that this full stop represented an okay. She replied with an emoji before opening her conversation with Mr. Numbers and heading over to the "Sexy and Frisky" group. "Beep beep beep, is there anyone who wants to play?" A minute later. As usual, Song Chaoshi popped up to feed dog food. "I'm watching a movie with my girlfriend." Chapter 564. Yao loves ice cream. The other party rejected your dog food and knocked over the dog bowl. Expert of the monkeys, while a dog sits at home, food falls from the sky. Juice, we agreed to be single dogs together, but you secretly flirted with a cat. Song Chaoshi sent a voice message. Yao tapped on it, and it was a female voice. "Who are you calling a cat?" Expert of the monkeys, Jinjin, hurry up and torture him. Juice, I'm a cat. I'm a cat in the alley. I'm free, but I don't have a home. This was the first time someone had described themselves as single in such a refreshing manner. Yao was just about to reply to Juice when a new message popped up on her screen. 111,111, cats that live to your age are long gone. Only tortoises live longer, so your sentence should be like this: I am a tortoise swimming in the river. I am very free, but I have no place to return to. Pfft, Upon seeing Mr. Number's message, Shi Yao nearly burst into laughter. What a vicious and despicable sentence. Expert of the monkeys, 666, Song Chaoshi, 6666666. Shi Yao's laughter died away. 666666666. Juice, 5555555555555. Mr. Numbers didn't reply anymore. Song Chaoshi and his girlfriend were probably watching a movie, so they didn't say anything else either. Left with no choice, Shi Yao could only copy and paste the message from Juice and Expert. DDDD. Is there anyone who wants to play? Juice, I'm sorry, Sis Yao, but I don't have time tonight. I'll be heading home to get some blood circulation medicine. Expert of the monkeys, I'm sorry, Sis Yao. I'm working overtime, so I can't play. Shi Yao replied with oh, it's fine. I'll play another day then, before leaving the sexy and frisky WeChat group. Shi Yao was intending to log into the game to play alone, but as soon as she went online, Desolate Years sent her a game invite. Ever since the last time she played with Desolate Year, she was infuriated by the bitchy, Desolate Year's little cutie, so she hadn't played with Desolate Year ever since. Now that Desolate Year invited her, she thought about it and chose to ignore it in the end. 3 seconds later, Desolation's invitation message appeared on the screen again. Just as Shi Yao was about to press ignore again, Desolate Year suddenly sent her a private message in the game. Daddy, let's duos. In other words, the cute little bitch wasn't here. Shi Yao was well aware of her own capabilities, and she knew that she would surely be tortured if she were to play alone. Even though Desolate Year wasn't as skilled as Mr. Numbers, at the very least, she could still experience the game by following him around. Shi Yao pondered for a moment before she clicked accept and entered Desolate Year's game room. In the afternoon, while Shi Yao was sleeping, a light shower fell from the sky, and the temperature at night was a little cool. After staying in the air-conditioned room for too long, Shi Yao felt a little uncomfortable. So, after playing a round of games with Desolate Year, she headed to the balcony. It was only after Shi Yao sat down that she realized that Lin Jiej was also on the balcony. Just like what she saw when she woke up that night, Lin Jiej was seated on a chair on the balcony, tapping on his laptop from time to time. Chapter 565. Lin Jiej raised his head from the computer screen and glanced at Shi Yao. I'm fine. Shi Yao replied with an oh. Seeing that Lin Jiej had returned his attention back to the computer, she plugged in her earphones and went to play with Desolate Year. In the end, Shi Yao was still afraid that she would disturb Lin Jiej, so she didn't speak much throughout the game. Even when she had to speak, she did so in a soft voice. Back when Lin Jiej was still in junior high, he could already play games on the computer while doing his homework. So, to the current him, it was a walk in the park for him to work on his project while listening to Shi Yao's words. The atmosphere on the balcony was very harmonious. The sound of Lin Jiej's typing on the keyboard and Shi Yao's soft and mellow voice mixed together, creating a tranquil and peaceful atmosphere. Time always passed quickly when one was in the game or at work, and before they knew it, it was already 11 at night. After ending a game, Shi Yao turned to Desolate Year and said, "It's getting late, so I'm not playing anymore." Desolate Year didn't try to persuade her to stay. He simply replied, "All right." Shi Yao bade him goodbye and was just about to leave the room when Desolate Year's voice sounded in her earphones once more. "Right, Yao?" Shi Yao hurriedly retracted her finger from the screen and asked, "What's wrong?" "Desolate Year, do you still remember what we agreed on that night when we stayed in the same hotel in Shenzhen?" Shi Yao pondered for a moment before recalling that she was going to report to school tomorrow, so she asked, "Are you talking about the meeting?" On the balcony, Lin Jiej heard Shi Yao's words, and his typing on the keyboard slowed down. That wild man was still thinking of meeting Soft Bun after obtaining Desolate Year Little Cutie. Desolate Year, yes, that's it. I'll be heading to your school early tomorrow afternoon. However, didn't we agree on having dinner at the canteen? Tian told me that she wants to eat hot pot, and there's an authentic hot pot restaurant near your school called Spicy Hot Pot. Do you know about it? Let's eat there tomorrow, alright. Even though it wasn't the location they had agreed on, considering that there were classmates she knew there, and it was a hot pot restaurant that she was familiar with, Shiryao didn't think too much about it. Sure, let's have hot pot tomorrow then. Shiryao paused for a moment before asking, what time? Desolation, probably between 7 and 8 o'clock. Is that okay? Shiryao, no, I'll see you tomorrow night between 7 to 8. 7 o'clock in the evening to 8 o'clock, that late. The frown on Lin Jie's forehead deepened, and even his fingers, which were swiftly tapping away on the keyboard, suddenly froze. After ending her conversation with Desolate Year, Shiryao put away her phone, stood up, stretched her back, and decided to take a bath. Before leaving, she shot a glance at Lin Jie and asked, "Are you still busy?" Hearing those words, Lin Jie hurriedly reined in his thoughts regarding his meeting with Shiryao during the Desolate Era and replied, "I'm still lacking." "Alright then, rest early after you're done with your work. You just had a fever last night, so don't sleep too late today. I'm going to take a shower." Lin Jie replied with a gentle before adding a good night. Shiryao replied with a good night before pushing open the door to the balcony and returning to her bedroom. When the curtains on Shiryao's side were drawn, the light from her balcony instantly dimmed. Lin Jie immediately took out his phone and logged into Desolate Year Little Cutie's game account. Chapter 566. Desolate Years was still in the game, and he hadn't gone offline yet. Lin Jie tapped on his name and sent him a blushing smiley emoji. Soon, a game invite from Desolate Years popped up on Lin Jie's phone screen. Lin Jie wasn't in a hurry to accept it. Instead, he found his earphones and plugged them into his ears before turning on the voice changer. After making sure that everything was ready, he entered Desolate Years' game room. "Desolate Years, little cutie, didn't you say that you're going to start school soon and that you're busy catching up on your homework? Why are you online now?" Fearing that his conversation on the balcony would be overheard by Shiryao, Lin Jie returned to his room with his laptop and locked all the doors and windows. Then, he lowered his voice and spoke into the voice changer, "I've done 8 papers today, and my hands are about to break." In order to make his words sound coquettish, Lin Jie gritted his teeth and added, "And I. Desolate Years, is it really that hard? What a pitiful little cutie. Let me help you rub it, rub your head, you perverted man." Lin Jie cursed viciously in his heart, but an incredibly adorable came out of his mouth. Desolate Years started the game, and after entering the island, he spoke up once more, "Little cutie, do you girls like to speak with such a tone? Soft and cute, very likable." Lin Jie wasn't able to comprehend what Desolate Years was referring to, so he feigned ignorance and asked, "What do you mean?" "Desolate Years, it's... Do you still remember Yao Shi? The two of you used to play together, and just like you, she likes to... And your tone is exactly the same, of course. How could he possibly not know his wife? Besides, what's wrong with having the same tone? This is called the husband following the wife." Lin Jie lowered his eyelids and replied, "Is that so? I didn't even notice it." "Desolate Years, yes, but your voice sounds better than Yao Shi's." Hee. You'll probably say that your voice sounds better than little cuties in front of Soft Bun, right? You're really a fickle man. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie chuckled awkwardly at the voice changer. Desolation, little cutie, you look so cute when you smile. How adorable. Lin Jiej raised his head to look at the makeup mirror not too far away. If you want to know who this little cutie is, let's see if you can still say the word cute. Just like before, Lin Jiej chuckled sheepishly. It was fortunate that Lin Jiej had defined Little Cutie of the Desolate Years as a character that was a deep hole in the game. Thus, even though he could only move a single hand at the moment, he was still able to maneuver his way through the game like a fish in water. Just as he was nearing the end of a round, Lin Jiej suddenly spoke up, "I can only play one round. I'm going to wash up and sleep later, wash clean." Who coined this phrase? And he even logged in some cute girl's quote, "So cold." Hearing his own words, Lin Jiej felt goosebumps rising all over his body. Desolation, are you sleeping so early? Little cutie in the desolate years, yeah, I'm taking the train to Beijing tomorrow. Chapter 567. Desolation, Beijing. Hearing Desolate Year's surprised tone, Lin Jiej knew that he had dug a trap successfully. Feigning ignorance about Desolate Year, he continued speaking, "That's right. School is starting soon, so I have to return to school. However, I bought the train ticket late, so I can only head to Beijing first. I'll stay there for a night before heading to Hangzhou." Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, "But I've never been to Beijing before, so I'm a little scared. I don't even know if I'll be able to find the hotel I booked." Scared? You must be joking. He was born and raised in Beijing. Putting aside finding a hotel, even if he was looking for a person, he would still be able to walk around the entire city without repeating himself. Hearing those words, Desolation spoke up, "Cutie, you might not believe me, but I'm in Beijing right now." Knowing that Desolation was in Beijing, Lin Jiej couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment, "That's great." Following which, Lin Jiej's astonishment turned into delight, then. "Big brother Nian, can I look for you when I arrive in Beijing tomorrow?" Desolation, "Sure." Lin Jiej chuckled happily. Then, with a conflicted look on his face, he asked, "But I don't know how I should look for you. Where should I go after I leave the train station? Which subway number or bus should I take?" Lin Jiej paused for a moment before asking, "Will I get lost? Beijing is so big, I'm really scared." Desolation was silent for 2 seconds on the other end of the game, as if he was contemplating something. A moment later, he said, "Why don't we do this instead? I won't be live streaming tomorrow anyway. Tell me what time your train ticket is, and I'll pick you up at the train station." Desolation's little cutie, "Can I really do that?" 3 seconds later, Desolation's little cutie, "Isn't that a little too troublesome? Big brother Nian." Desolation seemed to enjoy Lin Jiej calling him Big brother Nian. Upon hearing those words, he immediately replied, "No, no, how could it be troublesome? It's my honor to pick you up." Having wanted Desolation to pick him up, Lin Jiej didn't turn it down. "Thank you, Big brother Nian." After a moment of contemplation, Lin Jiej added, "To express my gratitude, I'll treat you to a meal tomorrow." Desolation, "I'll treat you to a meal. I'll never let a girl spend money on me." Oh. This fickle wild man sure is chauvinistic. Lin Jiej, "All right then. Thank you, brother Nian." He paused for a moment before adding, "I'll be at the train station at around 6:30 p.m. tomorrow." Desolation, 6:30. Knowing that he had a dinner date with Shirya tomorrow, Lin Jiej feigned ignorance and asked, "What's wrong? Brother Nian, are you busy at 6:30? Without waiting for Desolate Year to speak, Lin Jiej continued, "I live near the train station, but I've never stayed in a hotel before. Brother Nian, can you accompany me in the hotel for a while tomorrow night?" Chapter 568. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej added, "Big brother Nian, I don't mean anything by it. I'm just afraid that there's a ghost in a hotel. Desolation, little cutie, don't be afraid. I'll accompany you tomorrow night." Ha! Just as I thought, he's an old pervert. He must be up to no good by asking Soft Bun out so tirelessly. Who knows, he might just drug Soft Bun or something to frame her. He could just direct his lustful thoughts at me. As for Soft Bun, don't even think about it. Lin Jiej's eyes flickered for a moment before he replied with a gentle voice, "It's great to have Big Brother Nian. Big Brother Nian, let's meet at the train station tomorrow. Desolation, See you there, cutie." Seeing that his plan had worked, Lin Jiej bade farewell to Desolation Time, and logged out of the game after the round was over. Putting down his phone and removing his earphones, Lin Jiej didn't continue working on the interrupted project. Instead, he walked to the bedroom next door and knocked on the door politely. "Come in." Only when Yao's voice sounded from within did Lin Jiej push the door open. The girl was already done bathing, and she was dressed in pink pajamas with a face mask on. She was sitting cross-legged on the bed, watching television on her phone. Upon seeing him enter, she immediately turned to look at him and asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej raised his injured arm slightly. "I'm here to ask for your help." After a moment of silence, Lin Jiej briefly mentioned the matter he needed help with. "I haven't bathed yet." Yao immediately realized that Lin Jiej was asking her to help him undress and wrap up his injured arm with plastic wrap. She quickly replied with an "oh" before jumping off the bed, circling around Lin Jiej, and dashing toward the dining room. Lin Jiej waited until Yao's silhouette disappeared from the dining room before he rushed over to the bed and picked up her phone, which was still playing the television drama. He quickly returned to the main page and tapped into Yao's WeChat. Seeing that there were no messages from Desolation, he quickly entered the game. Among the unread messages in the game, there was indeed a message that Desolation Year had left for Yao a minute ago. "Yao Shi, I have something urgent to attend to tomorrow, so I won't be able to meet up with you. Shall we meet up another time? Yao Shi, you have to reply to my message when you see it. I'm really sorry this time." Without any hesitation, Lin Jiej tapped on the screen and replied, "All right, I got it." Years of Desolation was still online. After seeing Yao's reply, he immediately replied, "Yao, I'm really sorry. I'll treat you to a meal as compensation." Lin Jiej swiftly tapped on the screen a few times before replying with a perfunctory After which, he deleted the conversation he had with Desolate Years through Yao's phone before exiting the game. He returned to the video feed and returned the phone to its original place. After confirming that he hadn't exposed himself, he quickly backed out of Yao's bedroom and returned to his own. He sat on the sofa, picked up his laptop, and placed it on his knees. Just as he was about to enter the password, the bedroom door suddenly opened, and Yao walked in with a plastic wrap in hand. Chapter 569. Give me a minute. Lin Jiej seemed to be very busy. After hurriedly leaving those words behind, he turned his attention back to his laptop. His fingers swiftly tapped on the screen for a moment before he finally came to a stop. Then, as if checking for a problem, he stared at the screen for a while longer before closing the laptop and walking over to Yao. Just like last night, after Yao helped Lin Jiej take off his clothes, her face couldn't help but burn up. Nevertheless, it wasn't her first time seeing his naked upper body, so she was still able to maintain her composure. At the very least, when she was wrapping the plastic wrap around his injured right arm, she wasn't as timid as she was the day before. While Lin Jiej was bathing, Yao ran back to her bedroom to grab her phone and continue watching her drama series. Roughly 10 minutes later, the bathroom door opened, and Lin Jiej walked out, still dripping wet and wrapped in a towel. Even though Shuyao had already been shocked by such a bathing handsome man seen last night, she still couldn't help but feel a little unsettled when she saw it again. Lin Jiej's figure was really good. It was just like those in the mangas, so breathtaking that it felt surreal, but speaking of which, wasn't she a glutton? Why did she suddenly become so obsessed with beauty? Could it be that Lin Jiej had triggered her hidden, love-struck nature? Ah! No way! She was a person who had sworn to eat until the very end. She couldn't just turn into a pervert like that. But there was also a possibility that Lin Jiej was delicious. Delicious? Delicious your ass. Shuyao hurriedly shook her head. Under Lin Jiej's astonished gaze, she stood up and ran over to him. Without daring to meet his eyes, she removed the plastic wrap around his arm and helped him put on a clean set of clothes. Just like yesterday, she ran back to her bedroom. The two of them lived under the same roof for the second night. Nothing happened and they both slept until dawn. The next day was the day they reported to the academy. As Lin Jiej was injured, Shuyao didn't feel at ease letting him go out alone. On top of that, she wasn't willing to drive his flashy sports car to school either. So, after lunch, she called for Aditi to fetch them to school. After entrusting Lin Jiej to Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou, Shuyao ran off to look for Leng Yuan and the others. As a result, they bumped into each other again when they were lining up at the Academic Affairs office to register. In contrast to the sight of Xia Shangzhou greeting Shuyao warmly, Lu Benlai walked straight up to Leng Yuan and asked, "Are you all right?" Even though Lu Benlai hadn't met Leng Yuan many times in the past, every time she tried to strike up a conversation with him, he would always end up getting rebuffed. But this time, after hearing Lu Benlai's words, Leng Yuan fell silent for a moment before replying. Her tone wasn't as friendly as before, but it wasn't as cold as before. "I'm fine now." A hint of delight flashed across Lu Benlai's eyes. Perhaps it was because Leng Yuan was finally willing to talk to him normally. Lu Benlai stood in front of her for a long while before he finally spoke up. "It's good that you're fine." Chapter 570. Leng Yuan looked at the porcelain bottle in Lu Benlai's hand, but she didn't take it. Lu Benlai had no intention of taking it back either. After a stalemate of roughly 30 seconds, Lu Benlai finally gave in. "Take it, I don't mean anything by it." "Don't worry, I won't say anything. Since you took my medicine, I asked you to give me your phone number in exchange for it. I prepared this medicine for you, and I sincerely want to give it to you." Before Lu Benlai could finish his words, Leng Yuan had already reached out to take the medicine from his hand and said, "Thank you." After thanking Lu Benlai, Leng Yuan turned to Shuyao, Jiang Yu, and He Tian, who were standing by the side, and asked, "Are you done signing the papers? If you're done, let's go." Jiang Yu and He Tian nodded in agreement. "Let's go." Shuyao knew that Lin Jiej would be returning home soon, so she didn't leave. Instead, she waved her hand at her three roommates and bid them farewell. Leng Yuan replied with a goodbye before walking away from Lu Benlai. Lu Benlai didn't mind her cold and distant attitude at all. With a smile on his face, he said to Leng Yuan's back, "Goodbye, classmate Leng Yuan." Leng Yuan ignored him, and her footsteps didn't slow down either. However, her grip on the medicine bottle slowly tightened. It was already 4 in the afternoon by the time they left the school. Just like when she first came to school, Shuyao hailed a cab. On the way back to Lin Jiej's house, Lin Jiej pretended to be oblivious to Shuyao's plans and asked, "What are we eating tonight?" Hearing Lin Jiej's question, Shuyao suddenly remembered that she had a dinner date with Desolate Year, but she hadn't told him about it yet. "Ah, I forgot to tell you that I won't be able to eat at home tonight." I have a friend. Oh, I see. Lin Jiej nodded in realization. All right then. You go ahead with your work, I'll just grab a bite at home. Just grab a bite. It sounded really pitiful. But she had already agreed to meet Desolate Year, so it wouldn't be good for her to stand him up. Shi Yao pondered for a moment before replying, I'll be back right after I'm done eating. Do you have anything you want to eat? I'll bring it back for you. Lin Jiej always knew when to retreat in order to advance. I'm not hungry yet, so I'll just order some takeaway when I'm hungry. You don't have to rush back either. It's not every day that we're out for a meal, so it's more important that we have fun. It would have been better if Lin Jiej hadn't said those words, but for some reason, Shi Yao couldn't help but feel a little guilty. After all, he was injured because of her. Now, she left him, an injured person, at home and went out to eat with others. Thinking about it, it was really cruel. Shi Yao shook her head and replied, No, it's not really an important gathering. It's just a meal. I've already made a promise to someone else, so it won't look good if I don't go. I'll be back right after I'm done eating. If I come back earlier, I might even be able to accompany you for dinner. Hearing Shi Yao's gentle words, a hint of warmth surfaced in the depths of Lin Jiej's eyes. All right, I'll wait for your return. After returning home, Shi Yao was still worried about Lin Jiej, so she spent quite some time telling him to take care of things. It was only when she saw that she was running out of time that she finally left the house. The traffic was a little congested, and by the time she arrived at the hot pot restaurant, it was already 7:30 p.m. Chapter 571. Shi Yao walked up to the front desk and reported the number of tables that Desolate Year had told her yesterday. The attendant immediately led her to a private room on the second floor. She was the only one there. Since the agreed time was between 7 to 8, Shi Yao wasn't in a hurry. Instead, she took out her phone and browsed through the internet, waiting patiently. A second after Shi Yao left the house, Lin Jiej took out his phone and contacted Desolate Year. Using the boring train ride as an excuse, he dragged Desolate Year to play a few rounds of games, and when it was almost 6:20, Lin Jiej finally got his wish. Desolate Year informed him that his phone was out of battery, and he couldn't play anymore. What Lin Jiej wanted wasn't just for Desolate Year to run out of battery, but for Desolate Year to shut down his phone. So, after exiting the game, Lin Jiej went to WeChat and sent a message to Desolate Year. At 6:30, when he was supposed to arrive at the station, Lin Jiej connected the voice changer to Desolate Year and gave him a voice call. Desolate Year thought that she had arrived, so after picking up the call, he hurriedly said, Little cutie, I'm at the station. My phone is going to run out of battery soon, so I'll be waiting for you at exit 7 of Zone C. Come here to look for me when you arrive. Lin Jiej didn't say a word. It was only after Desolate Year was done that he said, Big Brother Nian, I didn't buy a high-speed train ticket but an ordinary one. I just found out that I had to give way to other trains in the afternoon, so I'll be delayed by an hour. After saying those words, Lin Jiej hurriedly added, Big Brother Nian, I'm really sorry. I didn't notice this in the afternoon. If I had known, I wouldn't have asked you to leave so early. Desolate Year, it's fine. But cutie, I might not be able to reply to your message later. I didn't bring my charger with me, or else we won't be able to contact each other when you arrive. Lin Jiej replied with a, all right, before hanging up the call. He picked up his laptop and got to work. Roughly an hour later, he pretended that he had already arrived at the station and gave Desolate Year another voice call. Big Brother Nian, I'm already here, I'm getting out of the station. But I seem to have taken the wrong route. I ended up in the subway. I'll go to exit 7 of Zone C. What? Brother Nian, your phone's battery is less than 1%. Okay, I'll remember that. I'll go to exit 7 to find you. I'm not good with directions, so it might take a little longer. Just wait patiently. Before Lin Jiej could finish his words, the WeChat voice call had already ended. Lin Jiej knew that Desolate Year's phone had run out of battery and shut down on its own. He leisurely tossed his phone to the side and took a look at the time. After which, he confidently continued working on the project while thinking about how he should console Shuyao when she returned angrily after being stood up. At 8:00, seeing that no one was coming, Shuyao took out her phone and gave her classmate, Tian, a call. It was only when the call connected that Shuyao learned that Tian had something to attend to. She had rejected Year of the Desolate yesterday, so she wouldn't be able to come for dinner today. After hanging up the call, Shuyao headed into the game to contact Desolate Year. She sent him several messages, but he didn't reply. Time slowly trickled by, and soon, it was already 8:30 p.m. The waiter came over to ask Shuyao if she wanted to place her order. Chapter 572. The person I'm supposed to meet isn't here, so how am I supposed to order it? Shuyao apologetically told the waiter to wait a moment before picking up her phone to log into the game and send a few messages to Desolation Year. 10 minutes later, there was still no reply. The waiter rushed her again. Shuyao glanced at her phone and saw that there were no messages from Desolation Year other than her. Did she get stood up? Was Desolation Year toying with her on purpose? Anyone would feel a little displeased to be left waiting for an hour, and Shuyao was no exception. She pursed her lips in response to the waiter's urging before grabbing her things and standing up. She was starving and craving hot pot, but it was already past 8:40 p.m. Besides, she'd promised Lin Jiej that she'd return early. With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao apologized to the waiter a few more times before leaving the compartment. By the time she reached the entrance of the hot pot restaurant, she realized that it had already started raining heavily. This was a pedestrian street, so there weren't any taxis here. Even if one were to call for a taxi, they would have to walk to the main road 300 meters away before they could get in. With such heavy rain, putting aside 300 meters, even 300 meters would be drenched, but it was getting late, and there was no telling when the rain would stop. She couldn't just wait here like a fool, could she? Shuyao hesitated for a moment before gritting her teeth and deciding to run to the side of the road to find a shelter to call for a taxi. But just as she was about to run into the rain, someone called out to her from behind, "Shuyao." Shuyao hurriedly turned around to take a look. Han Jing, who was dressed in a black shirt, walked out of the restaurant with a few classmates, looking as if he'd just finished eating hot pot. Thinking about it, it seemed like ever since she told Han Jing to avoid contact with him during the forum incident, the two of them hadn't interacted much. Han Jing was still as warm and amiable as ever, not the slightest bit angry or embarrassed by Shuyao's merciless rejection. "Shuyao, you're here to eat hot pot too." "I'm here to eat hot pot, but I didn't get to eat hot pot at all." Shuyao felt aggrieved for a moment before replying to Han Jing. Han Jing glanced at the storm outside. "Are you going back to school?" Actually, that wasn't the case, but she couldn't possibly tell him that she was going to Lin Jiej's place, could she? Shuyao could only reply with another, "on." Han Jing glanced at Shuyao's hand, which was only holding onto a bag, and asked, "You didn't bring an umbrella. How about I send you back to school?" With that, Han Jing took out a black umbrella from his backpack. "Senior Han, I don't want to." Before Shuyao could finish her words, Han Jing had already interjected, "Shuyao, it's only right for fellow students to help one another out." For a moment, Shuyao was at a loss for words. However, it would only take her 10 minutes to reach the academy. She could return to her dormitory room to grab an umbrella before heading back to Lin Jie's house. Xiuyao pondered for a moment before replying, "Sure." With a smile, Han Jing replied with a "You're welcome," before opening up his umbrella. After Xiuyao entered, he led Xiuyao toward the academy. The rain was heavy, and the road was not easy to walk. Neither of them noticed that a girl was standing at the entrance of a noodle shop not far away. She was holding her phone and recording the scene. "Little theater, good Jolin, my baby is unhappy. My baby wants to rebel. Why does the girl I like have so many admirers? Didn't the other male protagonists in the past do the same? Readers, patting my head, who asked you to be so despicable?" Chapter 573. It wasn't until Xiuyao and Han Jing's silhouettes disappeared from the girl's sight that the girl put away her phone and sent the video she had just recorded over to Liang Mumu. Not too long later, the girl received a voice message from Liang Mumu. One of them is that little slut Xiuyao, and the other one is. I can't quite remember who he is, but he looks a little familiar. After listening to Liang Mumu's voice message, the girl replied, "It's Han Jing, he's from our faculty. He's also studying the arts, and he plays the violin exceptionally well." Liang Mumu, "Yes, I know him. He's Xiuyao's senior Han, right? The two of them actually came out to eat alone. And they even shared the same umbrella." The girl, "I'm not too sure about the specifics. I just happened to bump into him, and I recalled what you told me before, so I told you to tell you everything I know about Xiuyao." "Not bad. That's quite a good video." Liang Mumu's slightly cold laughter sounded from the voice message. Following which, she continued, "I really have to thank you for your help this time. However, there's one more thing I would like to trouble you for." After hearing Liang Mumu's words, a hint of incomprehension flashed across the girl's eyes. "Is there a point in doing that?" Liang Mumu, "Of course there is. Think about it, if a person really likes another person and pursues her for so long, only to find out that he's been deceived by her, what would he do? He would surely hate her. As long as he hates her, he'll be of use to me in the future." The girl, "All right then, I'll give it a try." Before the girl could finish her words, she heard a slight movement by her side. She raised her head and saw her friend walking over with a tray of food. Before she could finish her words, she sent the voice message over and typed a reply, "It's not convenient for me right now. I'll contact you later." Liang Mumu replied with a, "All right," before sending a relatively long message, "Remember to do what I told you earlier." The girl casually typed a, "Got it," and sent the voice message. Seeing that Liang Mumu didn't reply to her message, she put away her phone. "Iran, the zhajiang noodles you ordered are already sold out. Is there anything else you'd like to eat?" Her friend walked up to the dining table, put down the sour noodle soup he had ordered, and asked Qin with a smile. With a smile, Qin shook her head and said, "There's no need for that. I suddenly remembered that I have something important to do, so you can continue eating. I'll be leaving first." After which, Qin grabbed her bag and umbrella and hurriedly left the noodle shop. During the summer in Beijing, the weather was very unstable. In the afternoon, the sky was clear for miles, but in the night, there was a sudden flash of lightning and thunder. Lin Jie was awoken by the sound of thunder. The first thing he did after sitting up was to check the time. It's already close to 9 o'clock, so Soft Bun should be back by now, right? But with such a heavy downpour, would she be drenched? Without any hesitation, Lin Jie prepared to head out to fetch Xiuyao. But as soon as he got off the bed, his phone rang. An unknown phone number sent a video. Grabbing his phone, Lin Jie went out to look for an umbrella as he tapped on the video call. Then, when he saw the video, his expression instantly turned cold. Due to the heavy rain, he wasn't able to see the image clearly. However, he could still tell that the two people in the video were Yao and Han Jing, the man who had confessed to her at the entrance of the dormitory room. Chapter 574. Just as Lin Jiej made up his mind, his phone vibrated once more. Once again, it was a message from the unknown number. They look really intimate in the video. Look, the guy's using his umbrella to cover the girl's body, and he's getting drenched too. Lin Jiej frowned as he tapped on the video once more. This time, he was looking at the video much more carefully than before. It was just as the message had said. Han Jing was really taking good care of Yao, and half of his body was drenched in the rain. Perhaps it was due to the rain, but it was a little difficult to walk on the road. Occasionally, Han Jing would reach out to support Yao. The video wasn't long, but in this short 2 minutes, Yao and Han Jing had exchanged gazes several times. Even through the heavy rain, she could still see the warm smile on Han Jing's face. Lin Jiej's lips couldn't help but tighten. After Soft Bun stood him up, she bumped into Han Jing and had dinner with him. She promised him that she'd return home as soon as possible after dinner. An indescribable discomfort instantly crept into Lin Jiej's heart. Coincidentally, he received yet another message from the unknown number. They seem to have eaten hot pot together, and they're returning to school together now. This is the girl you like. Lin Jiej was initially intending to ignore the video, but when he saw the word he suddenly raised his finger and started typing on the screen. Perhaps it was out of displeasure, or perhaps it was out of anger, but he typed very forcefully, causing the screen to echo with a loud d-d-d sound. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what you're thinking when you sent this video. I'm telling you right now, I like her. Even if she's ugly, fat, and has had countless boyfriends, I still like her. Have you heard of the words irreplaceable before? Do you know what it means? However, there's a high chance that a brainless person like you wouldn't know, so I'll just tell you this once. Irreplaceable means irreplaceable, unique, and she is irreplaceable to me. So, I advise you to put away your meaningless tricks. Do you think that I won't like her just because you sent me a video and instigated me with a few words? You must be joking. If I like someone, I'll like them for life. Even if she doesn't like me, I'll still like her. You want me to slap her face? Dream on. Lin Jiej typed out a long string of words in a single breath. He was intending to send the message straight away, but just as his finger was about to tap on the screen, he suddenly paused. He added a before sending the message out. What the hell? Do you think you're the only one who knows how to do that? I'm better than you, he. A second after the message was successfully sent, Lin Jiej tossed his phone onto the sofa by the side. With a cold expression on his face, he walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window and stared at the heavy rain outside. When she returned to the female dormitory, she noticed that half of Han Jing's body was drenched in sweat. Feeling a little embarrassed, she quickly thanked him and added, Senior Han, you should hurry back to the dormitory. You might catch a cold. Han Jing was still acting like a nice guy. You too. Hurry up and go in. Yao nodded. After a moment of silence, she said, goodbye, before entering the dormitory. After Yao's silhouette disappeared from his sight, Han Jing opened his umbrella and prepared to leave. Chapter 575. Han Jing instinctively turned around, only to see a young lady dressed in a white chiffon dress and strappy sandals walking toward him with a red umbrella in her hand. Only when she got closer did Han Jing realize that the person who had called out to him was Ran. They were classmates, and it wasn't as if they hadn't spoken to each other before. However, ever since she started using all kinds of pseudonyms to smear Yao's name on the forum last semester, he rarely spoke to her anymore. As such, when Han Jing recognized that the other party was Ran, a hint of disgust surfaced in his eyes. Even his voice sounded particularly unfriendly. What did you call me for? Qin Yiran didn't mind Han Jing's attitude at all. She shot a glance at the female dormitory that Shuyao had just entered and asked, "Is the person you sent back to the dormitory the Year 1 English faculty Shuyao?" To think that she still had the cheek to mention Shuyao's name. Han Jing's tone grew even more vile. What does it have to do with you? It does have nothing to do with me. Qin Yiran's tone was still as gentle as before. But it does have something to do with you. Before Han Jing could say anything, Qin Yiran continued, "You like her a lot, don't you? I heard that you were the one who received her in her freshman year, and you fell in love with her at first sight. You've been taking good care of her in the student union too. I even heard that you queued up for half the night during Christmas just to buy her favorite online pancake. Han Jing, if you don't have anything else to say, I'll be taking my leave first." "What's the hurry?" Qin Yiran chuckled softly. "Everything should be done step by step, right? I haven't laid the groundwork yet, so how can I tell you the main point?" "Forget it, since you don't want to hear it, I'll just tell you the main point. You like Shuyao so much, and you've been by her side for so long, so how much do you know about her? Does she know that you like her? Did she reject you? In the beginning, did she tell you that she actually had a fiancé?" "Fiancé? Shuyao has a fiancé?" Han Jing's complexion suddenly froze. "Qin Yiran, judging from your expression, it seems like you don't know. She knows that you like her, but she didn't tell you that she has a fiancé. She sure has some tricks up her sleeves." Shuyao was such a clean person, so she couldn't possibly be as scheming as Qin Yiran made her out to be. With that thought in mind, Han Jing said, "Don't talk nonsense. I'm really not spouting nonsense here. Shuyao really has a fiancé, and I've only found out about it not too long ago. The reason why I'm telling you about it is to warn you not to be fooled by others. Also, I'm sure you know who her fiancé is. He's a famous figure in G University, Lin Jiej from the mathematics faculty. They were engaged 6 years ago, 6 years ago. You only met Shuyao last year, and it's been more than a year since then, but she didn't tell you about this at all." Sigh. Qin Yiran shook her head as she pointed to the dormitory building that Shuyao had just entered and said, "I just happened to bump into you, so I mentioned it to you in passing. I don't have any other intentions. It's getting late, so I'll be heading back to my room to sleep. Good night." After saying those words, Qin Yiran strode into the female dormitory. The rain was still falling, and there was no sign of it stopping. Instead, it was getting heavier. Chapter 576. After entering the female dormitory, Qin Yiran wasn't in a hurry to return to her room. Instead, she walked to the end of the corridor and picked up her phone to send a message to Liang Mumu. "I've done what you asked me to do. I told Han Jing that Shuyao has a fiancé, and judging from his shocked expression, it's likely that it's just as you said. He likes her a lot, and if he learns that he's been deceived, he'll hate Shuyao. However, I have to remind you that he's very protective of Shuyao, so there's a chance that he won't believe my words. Liang Mumu, it's fine. I'll find a way to convince him." "Qin Yiran, good luck then." After a moment of silence, Qin Yiran sent another message. "Right, you haven't forgotten what you promised me, right? As long as I help you, you'll let me into the Lin family enterprise." "Liang Mumu, I remember, of course I remember. Don't worry, as long as I replace Shuyao and become Lin Jiej's fiancé, I'll definitely fulfill my promise. Qin Yiran, I'll be waiting for your good news." Liang Mumu replied with an emoji. Qin Yiran didn't respond. Instead, she stared at her phone screen with a sharp glint in her eyes. Back then, it was Liang Mumu who had approached her with those photos of Shi Yao. She told her that as long as she cooperated with her, she would grant her a wish. She agreed to it and went to the forums to expose Shi Yao. What was important was that the reason why she agreed to Liang Mumu's request wasn't because of the Lin family enterprise but Lin Jiej. Liang Mumu's dream was Lin Jiej, and so was she. However, she didn't have the unique advantage that Liang Mumu had. She had known Lin Jiej since childhood, and she had a cousin who was Lin Jiej's childhood friend. She had nothing at all. Thus, for the sake of her own dream, she could only choose to cooperate with Liang Mumu. She tried her best to make Liang Mumu think that she was doing this for the sake of her bright future. But then again, Liang Mumu was also a fool. She thought that she was smart. But in the end, didn't she still end up being used by her? Of course she wanted a bright future. But how could the bright future of the Lin family enterprise compare to the bright future of the wife of the Lin family enterprise's future successor? She was currently trying to compromise with Liang Mumu, but on the final day, the day that Shi Yao was eliminated would also be the day that she, Liang Mumu, would be eliminated as well. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, it was already 11:00 at night. The door was still very quiet, and the cars that drove downstairs never stopped at the building that he lived in. It had been 2 hours since she had finished eating, but she still hadn't returned. Was she with Han Jing? Was the existence of that tiger really that important? It was so heavy that she had forgotten that she had promised him to come back earlier. During this period of time, he had actually thought about calling her and pretending to be uncomfortable to trick her into coming back. Or, he could just go straight to the school to find her and forcefully bring her home. He had a lot of little schemes since he was young. In just a few short minutes, he had thought of dozens of ways to trick her into coming back. However, this time, he didn't use any of them. All he did was stand in front of the window and wait. As time passed, Lin Jiej could clearly see the sorrow, disappointment, and helplessness he was feeling growing in his heart. Chapter 577. Not too far away, the hands of the floor clock ticked away. At 11:30, Lin Jiej, who had been staring out the window all this while, finally lowered his eyelids. In that instant, there was a clear sense of sorrow that gushed out from his body. It can't be that she's not coming back, right? But does she know that I'm still waiting for her? Waiting? Lin Jiej couldn't help but ask himself, that's right. I've been waiting for a very long time, from the moment I knew that you were Yao loves ice cream, from the moment I understood that the special feeling I had for you was liking you, from the moment I was certain that you were the only one in my life. I've been waiting for you, Shi Yao, I like you. That's why I chose to wait for you. As this thought flashed across Lin Jiej's mind, the sorrowful feeling he was feeling grew even more intense. Just as he was thinking that she probably wouldn't be coming back tonight, he suddenly heard a ding-dang outside his door. It was the sound of the elevator door opening. He was the only tenant on this floor, and there was a security guard on the first floor. He would be notified of any visitors unless it was Shi Yao, who had been staying here recently. So, she's back. Could it be that I've been too anxious waiting for her that I've made a mistake? Before the word sleep could even appear in his mind, Lin Jiej heard the sound of someone keying in his passcode. Lin Jiej instinctively turned his gaze toward the door. Soft Bun is really back. He stared at the door for 2 seconds, then suddenly lifted his feet and strode into his bedroom. Pushing open the door, Shi Yao realized that the living room was completely dark. The lights weren't switched on. Lin Jiej isn't home, Shi Yao frowned as she placed the bag she was carrying on the floor. Then, she switched on the lights, changed out of her shoes, and headed to the master bedroom. She knocked on the door a few times, but there was no response. Still worried, Shiryao took the liberty of twisting the doorknob and pushed the door open slightly. Lin Jiej was lying on the bed with a blanket draped over him. His eyes were closed, and it seemed like he was asleep. It's only 11:30, and he's already asleep. So early. Don't tell me you're not feeling well. Shiryao was perplexed for a moment before she called out Lin Jiej's name. He ignored her. This made Shiryao even more worried. She subconsciously walked over to Lin Jiej's bedside and placed her hand on his forehead. It's fortunate that he doesn't have a fever. Shiryao muttered under her breath. Then, she couldn't help but ask curiously. Then why did he sleep so early? As she spoke, she glanced at the medicine on the table by the side before picking it up and counting it carefully. He didn't even take his medicine for the night before falling asleep. Shiryao squatted down and moved closer to Lin Jiej's side. With a gentle voice, she called out his name again, Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej. On the surface, Lin Jiej looked as if he was sleeping soundly, but his heart was already in turmoil. What to do? He seemed to be a good-for-nothing. He wanted to be angry with her, but she ran to him, muttered a few words, and called his name a few times, and his heart softened into a complete mess. Sigh, forget it, who asked her to be the girl he liked, what else could he do? He could only admit defeat. As long as she called his name one more time, he would pretend to have been woken up by her and open his eyes. It seems like he's really asleep because he's feeling unwell due to his injuries. Forget it, I still have other matters to attend to. I should just let him sleep for a while longer. With such thoughts in mind, Shiryao reached out to lower the brightness of Lin Jiej's bedside lamp before leaving his bedroom. Chapter 578. She's gone. Hearing the door to his room being closed, Lin Jiej opened his eyes in disbelief. He stared at the empty room and blinked his eyes in disbelief. She's really gone just like that. What's wrong with calling my name one more time? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej flipped over in frustration. In fact, he even kicked his blanket twice in displeasure. If only I'd known earlier, I would have woken up the second time she called my name. Is this the legendary courting death? Lin Jiej stared at the ceiling helplessly for a moment, and the more he thought about it, the more regretful he felt. Eventually, he couldn't help but flip over in his bed. A moment later, he flipped over once more. Lin Jiej rolled around on his bed for quite some time, and just when he couldn't stand it any longer, he decided to pretend that he had just woken up and head out to drink some water. At that moment, the door to his room was pushed open once more. Soft Bun is in my room again. Lin Jiej hurriedly pretended to be asleep as he picked up the blanket he had kicked off the bed and covered himself with it. After which, he closed his eyes and lay motionless. Through the faint footsteps, Lin Jiej could vaguely tell that Shiryao was slowly approaching him. Not too long later, he heard her voice above him, Lin Jiej. Having learned his lesson, Lin Jiej didn't dare to act rashly again. A second after Shiryao's voice sounded, his eyelashes fluttered slightly, and as if someone had woken him up from a dream, he slowly opened his eyes. In order to not expose himself, Lin Jiej tried his best to keep his eyes blank, feigning a dazed look. After staring at Shiryao for a while longer, he finally seemed to realize what was going on, and he slowly rose to his feet. You're back. While asking, Lin Jiej glanced out of the window, pretending that he had slept for a long time and had no idea what time it was. Then, he asked. What time is it? It's almost midnight, it's already so late. Shiryao was silent for a moment before replying. I didn't want to wake you up, but I saw that you hadn't taken your medicine yet, so I decided to wake you up. Oh. Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly. I was working on a project earlier in the evening, and I was a little tired, so I took a short nap. I didn't think that I'd be sleeping until now, Bangwon. Shi Yao immediately grasped the main point in Lin Jie's words. Have you had dinner yet? Lin Jie shook his head. Not yet. Lin Jie paused for a moment before continuing. I wasn't that hungry back then, so I didn't eat. Are you hungry now? Before Lin Jie could respond, Shi Yao continued, regardless of whether you're hungry or not, you should come out and eat something first. It's not good for your stomach to eat on an empty stomach. Eat. Lin Jie frowned. He seemed to have understood something. That's right. Oblivious to Lin Jie's reaction, Shi Yao adjusted the lights in the bedroom a little brighter and said. I haven't had dinner yet, and I'm starving to death right now. I just went to the dining room to cook a hot pot, and it just so happens that it's a double duck pot. You can't eat spicy food due to your injuries, but you can still have some clear soup. Wait a minute. The amount of information was a little too much for him to digest. Chapter 579. The moment Lin Jie brought it up, Shi Yao's face immediately turned livid. I would have forgotten about it if you hadn't reminded me. Do you know that I was stood up by someone today? I'm so angry. Stood up. She's referring to that wild man, right? As the instigator of this, Lin Jie feigned ignorance and asked, what do you mean by stood up? That's right. The person who invited me out for a meal didn't show up at all. I had to wait for him in the restaurant for an entire hour and a half. Do you know how hungry I was back then? Furthermore, it was a hot pot restaurant. The air was filled with the call of the hot pot. The call of the hot pot. Lin Jie picked out a term that he didn't understand. It's the smell of the hot pot. It kept calling for me to come and eat me. Isn't it the call of the hot pot? Lin Jie. She sounded like she was right, making it impossible for him to refute her. Lin Jie, since you haven't eaten yet and I haven't eaten either, shall we head out for hot pot now? Sure, sure. Shi Yao's eyes immediately curled into crescents as she nodded vigorously. Without saying a word, Lin Jie got off the bed. As the two of them made their way to the dining hall, Shi Yao looked as if she was presenting a treasure to Zhang Xian, chattering non-stop. Let me tell you, my hot pot is really delicious. As a foodie, I have to possess incredible cooking skills. I had to travel quite a distance just to buy these ingredients for my hot pot. Ran a really long way. Could it be that Soft Bun returned so late to buy hot pot ingredients? Lin Jie suppressed the joy in his heart and tried to get Shi Yao to reveal the truth. You came back so late because you went to buy hot pot ingredients. That's right. I wanted to eat hot pot, but I didn't get to eat it. I won't be able to sleep well tonight. Seeing that the hot pot on the table was already boiling, Shi Yao hurriedly ran over and lifted the lid to take a look. After which, she began adding meat slices into the pot. Let me tell you, I'm really unlucky tonight. It's already pitiful enough that someone stood me up, right? But when I left, there was even a huge rainstorm. A rainstorm. What he was most concerned about was, before Shi Yao could finish her words, Lin Jie hurriedly interjected, I remember that you didn't bring an umbrella with you when you left the house. Did you get wet? In order to make it seem as if he was only concerned about her, he even added a few more words. Did you take a hot bath after returning home? Why didn't you call me and let me pick you up? Even if I couldn't, I could have asked the driver to pick you up. No, no, no. Shi Yao hurriedly shook her head. I'm fine. My luck was a little better. I bumped into a schoolmate at the entrance of the hot pot restaurant, and he brought me back to school. As such, Soft Bun didn't eat hot pot with Han Jing at all. He knew that this red apricot of his was growing up to be a good seedling. Overjoyed, the tense look on Lin Jie's face loosened significantly. It's good that you didn't get wet. However, it was only 9 o'clock at that time. She actually took more than 2 hours to get home. Did she buy food the whole time? Chapter 580. That's right. I went back to my dormitory room to grab an umbrella before taking a taxi to the supermarket. Shi Yao replied matter-of-factly, thinking that it was something that couldn't be any more normal. Let me tell you, I went to a total of 5 supermarkets. Since these ingredients are distributed in different supermarkets, I had no choice but to run around in order to gather them all. I bought this clear broth from a supermarket near our school, this spicy one from a supermarket near Second Ring Road, this lasagna from a private supermarket, and this dipping sauce is my favorite, but it's also the furthest away, so I went to Chaoyang to buy it. Lastly, I bought these vegetables from a supermarket near our house. Since they're too heavy, I had to get closer to them. But even so, my arms still turned red from the strain. As she spoke, Shi Yao stretched her fair and slender arms toward Lin Jie. Her skin was fair and smooth to begin with, and the heavy weight caused the red marks on her arms to be particularly glaring. Initially, Lin Jie was shocked when he heard that she had to go to 5 supermarkets to gather a table full of ingredients. However, when he saw her arms, he immediately reached out to massage them lightly and asked, "Are you feeling better now? Does it still hurt?" His fingertips were slightly cold, and when they landed on her skin, it was hard to tell whether it was a tingling sensation or a numbing sensation. Shi Yao's words suddenly stopped at the tip of her lips. She stared at Lin Jie's fingertips for a moment before retracting her arms with a slightly reddened face. She picked up a piece of meat with her chopsticks and placed it in Lin Jie's bowl, saying, "I'm starving to death. Let's hurry up and eat." Lin Jie replied with an before picking up the piece of meat Shi Yao passed to him with his chopsticks and dipped it in the dipping sauce before putting it into his mouth. In contrast to Lin Jie's calmness, Shi Yao discreetly rubbed her arms against her clothes to get rid of the strange sensation he had left on her skin before picking up her chopsticks and eating the hot pot. As Lin Jie's right hand was inconvenient, Shi Yao took the initiative to pick food for him throughout the entire meal. As a result, the already full Lin Jie ended up bursting at the end. While Shi Yao was clearing the table, Lin Jie wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he took a picture of the leftovers on his phone and sent it over to Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou, Yao Yao's hot pot. After a moment of contemplation, Lin Jie added, "Yao Yao braved the heavy rain and went to 5 supermarkets before she managed to buy all the ingredients necessary to make this hot pot." "Juice, boss, your first sentence has already killed me. You don't need a second sentence to whip my corpse. Expert of the monkeys, the other party is blind and can't see your message." Lin Jie was in a really good mood, so he generously replied with a full stop, "Yes." Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou ignored him. 3 seconds later, Lin Jie sent the same message to each of them, "I've been looking for a peach blossom for so long, and I've finally met a formidable opponent." Perhaps it was due to Lin Jie's distress, Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou replied swiftly. Even through the screen, Lin Jie could sense their excitement. "Juice, what formidable opponent. Expert of the monkeys, boss, hurry up and tell us. I can't wait to know." Chapter 581. Juice, expert of the monkeys, Lin Jie, and I can't afford to squash such a formidable opponent. If I don't do it right, I'll be the one to die. Juice, boss, I'll mourn for you for a second. Expert of the monkeys, boss, I'll support you in spirit unconditionally. Lin Jie, but it's fortunate that I have money, so I can deliver whatever Yao Yao wants to eat to her. Thinking about it this way, it's entirely possible for me and delicacies to coexist in Yao Yao's world. In G University's room 501, Lu Benlai unhesitatingly took back the "Boss, I'll mourn for you for a second," message he had just sent. In the end, he was just flaunting his happiness. In Lin Family Enterprise, Xie Shangzhou was eating instant noodles while working overtime. When he saw Lin Jie's reply, he gulped down a mouthful of instant noodles resentfully before taking back the "Boss, I'll support you in spirit unconditionally" message he had just sent. "If you're already flaunting your happiness even before we're together, will you still let me live?" Looking at the 2 notifications on his phone that his message had been taken back, Lin Jie raised his phone calmly. Just as he was about to type out another message, a QQ notification suddenly popped up on his screen. Lin Jie tapped on it and realized that, little cutie of the desolate era, SQQ wasn't offline yet. On the other hand, Desolate Era had sent him a message, "Little cutie, I've been waiting for you for so long. Why aren't you here yet?" 361,000 renminbi of a wild man. Did she return home because she couldn't wait for me, and her phone was charged? Would Soft Bun send me a message if she couldn't wait for me? Would he reply to Soft Bun after receiving the message? Would Soft Bun know that he had touched her phone? In just 3 short seconds, Lin Jie pretended that he had received a call, raised his phone to his ear, and replied with a "hello." Shi Yao, who was in the midst of tidying up, heard his voice and glanced in his direction. Seeing that he was on the phone, she quickly returned to her work. Lin Jie spoke some high-sounding words into his phone, as if he was discussing some kind of collaboration. Shi Yao was afraid that she would disturb him by making too much of a ruckus, so she became much gentler as she tidied up the items. Even when she turned on the tap to wash the dishes, the flow of water was reduced by half. By the time Shi Yao's hands were soaked in foam, Lin Jie suddenly spoke into the phone, "Wait a moment, I can't quite remember," after which, Lin Jie looked around, and seeing that he didn't have a pen or paper, he turned to Shi Yao and asked, "Yao Yao, can I borrow your phone for a moment? I remember numbers." "All right." Shi Yao glanced at the dining table and said, "My phone is over there. You can use it." Lin Jie brazenly took Shi Yao's phone away before tapping on the screen and pointing to the page that required a password. Then, he raised it to Shi Yao and said, "Password required." Shi Yao instinctively wanted to enter the password for Lin Jie, but just as she was about to turn around, she suddenly remembered that she was washing the dishes, and her hands were covered in grease and detergent. Thus, she hesitated and said, "My password is..." Upon hearing the password, Lin Jie keyed in the password as he entered Shi Yao's phone page. After which, he spoke into the phone, "Speak, I'll write it down now." However, he used his finger to mute Shi Yao's phone before tapping into her game. Chapter 582. After entering the game, Lin Jie immediately saw the notification of Shi Yao's unread messages. He tapped on it, and just as he had expected, Desolate Year had really replied to Shi Yao's message. "Desolate Year, Yao, didn't I tell you yesterday that I had something on today and couldn't go for dinner? Didn't you see it? Desolate Year, Yao, didn't you reply to my message yesterday? What the hell is going on? Desolate Year, Yao, are you angry? Why are you ignoring me?" Lin Jie held his phone between his neck and pretended to recite a series of parameters that Shi Yao couldn't understand. His fingers swiftly tapped on Shi Yao's phone as if he was recording the parameters, but in truth, he was replying to Desolate Year's message, "Oh, I asked around. Last night, after I fell asleep, Lin Jie pondered for a moment before replying with 2 words. "My older brother was using my phone to play games, so he saw your message and replied to you. However, he forgot to tell me today. Desolate Year was online, and he instantly replied, 'You have an older brother?' Right, love brother," Lin Jie pondered as he recited the complicated formula earnestly. At the same time, he replied to Desolate Year's message on. Right, did you go to meet your fan today? Desolate Year, what do you mean? You don't understand. Hee, you're still pretending. Lin Jiej lowered his eyelids. It wasn't surprising that little cutie knew many of his fans in Desolate Year's fan club. Even if the host wasn't live streaming, his fans could still chat with him. So, with this thought in mind, Lin Jiej swiftly tapped on the screen a few times before replying, I went to your live stream today, and someone said that you went to meet little cutie. Desolate Year's reply was no longer feigning ignorance but an explanation. Little cutie came to Beijing. She doesn't know the way, so she asked me to pick her up. Desolate Year, she begged me for a long time before I went. What do you mean by begging you for a long time? You must be joking. Do I look like the kind of person who would beg others? I only rushed over when I heard that you were going to a hotel. However, having achieved his goal, Lin Jiej couldn't be bothered to waste any more time on Desolate Year. I see. It's getting late, so I'm going to sleep now. Let's chat later. Desolation, okay. Lin Jiej wasn't in a hurry to reply to Desolation Year's message. Instead, he deleted all of their earlier conversations, leaving only Desolation Year's words. Little cutie came to Beijing, but she doesn't know the way, so she asked me to fetch her. After he deleted the message, he replied with a smiley emoji. He quickly deleted the smiley emoji and exited the chat with Desolate Year. Soon, a new notification popped up in the chat window. It was a reply from Desolation Year. Even without tapping on it, Lin Jiej could see that Desolation Year had also replied with a smiling emoticon. This way, when Soft Bun logged into the game, she would see the notification that someone had sent her a message. She wouldn't know that he had intercepted Desolate Year's message. Chapter 583. Alright. After washing the dishes, Shiryao didn't rush to grab her phone. Instead, she headed straight to Lin Jiej's bedroom. Not too long later, she returned to the dining room with Lin Jiej's medicine in hand. Shiryao poured a cup of water and watched as Lin Jiej gulped down every single pill before picking up her phone and leaving the dining hall with Lin Jiej. Just like the previous 2 days, Shiryao helped Lin Jiej remove his clothes before he showered. After Lin Jiej entered the bathroom, Shiryao felt bored, so she logged into the game and saw 2 unread messages from Desolate Year. The first message was, Little cutie is in Beijing. She doesn't know the way, so she asked me to pick her up. The second message was a smiling emoji. So, the reason why Desolate Year stood up without saying a word was because he went to meet that shameless White Lotus. He could go and see her, but before he went to see that White Lotus, could he at least tell her not to let her wait there like a fool? That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that she had sent him so many messages, but he didn't even apologize to her. Instead, he only replied with this one sentence. Fine, I'll just take it as an explanation. What's the meaning of that smiling emoji? Shiryao stared at the smiling emoji, and the more she looked at it, the more she felt like she was being mocked by Desolate Year. An indescribable feeling of indignation filled her heart. Is this Desolate Year playing with me? I'm so angry. The more Shiryao thought about it, the more furious she became. In the end, she couldn't help but stomp her feet on the carpet. After his shower, Lin Jiej opened the door and saw Shiryao stomping her feet on the floor in anger. Stunned, he asked, "What's wrong?" Hearing Lin Jiej's question, the infuriated Shiryao rushed over to Lin Jiej and began recounting the entire incident with a pitiful look on her face. "Let me tell you, I'm about to die from anger. I got to know someone in the game, and he's really too much. He's my classmate, and he invited me out for a meal. After some thought, I decided that it wouldn't be a big deal since he's an acquaintance of mine, so I decided to eat with him. As she spoke, she tapped into the game and opened up the chat records that Desolation Year had sent her. Look, I sent him so many messages, but he only replied with a single sentence and a smiley face. Don't you think that this smiley face looks like he's mocking me? I'm really going to die of anger. I curse him to eat instant noodles without any seasoning packets. Shi Yao, who rarely scolded others, stuttered for a long time, but she still couldn't find a single word to say. This kind of person is really a scumbag. Without any hesitation, Lin Jiej picked up Shi Yao's words and started berating, Desolation Year. If it were me, I would have blacklisted such a person right away. Do you think I'd let him live through the new year? Right. Reminded by Lin Jiej, Shi Yao unhesitatingly tapped on Desolation's name and blacklisted him. I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Taking in this sight, Lin Jiej couldn't help but burst into laughter. Chapter 584. However, there wasn't the slightest hint of joy on Lin Jiej's face. Alright, it's not worth getting angry over such a person. As he consoled Shi Yao, he used the method he had thought of to coax her earlier in the afternoon. Right, while I was bathing earlier, I suddenly remembered something. After you left in the evening, when I called someone to send some soda over, I also sent some Häagen-Dazs ice creams. They have every flavor, and they're in the fridge. Upon hearing the mention of ice cream, Shi Yao's eyes suddenly lit up, and she completely forgot about the desolate years. Do you have strawberry-flavored ice cream? Yeah, strawberry-flavored ice cream seems to be the most common. I love strawberry-flavored ice cream the most. Oh right, do you want some? We can eat ice cream together later. Those two words successfully pleased Lin Jiej. Sure. After that, Shi Yao began helping Lin Jiej remove the plastic wrap and put on his clothes. Lin Jiej thought that the matter of the desolate years had come to an end, but little did he expect that after Shi Yao finished bathing and changing into her pajamas, she would suddenly bring up the topic of the desolate years while eating ice cream with him in the living room. I was so engrossed in my anger over the desolate years that I forgot about that bitchy white lotus. Back then, when she was playing games, I was rendered speechless by her coquettishness. She kept calling me Big Brother Nian. Now that she's in Beijing, she says that she doesn't know the way around. This kind of excuse can only fool the desolate years, right? But then again, do you know what's the name of the white lotus that's so good? She's called Little Cutie from the desolate years. Little Cutie. It sounds like a pug, right? Am I right? Yes. A month wasn't too long, but it wasn't too short either. Other than when she was in class, Shi Yao spent most of her time in Lin Jiej's house. On the other hand, Lin Jiej was much busier than her. He often had an endless stream of phone calls and keyboard noises. When Lin Jiej was busy, Shi Yao would either study by his side, do her English papers, or play games by herself. Over the past month, Lin Jiej had done quite a few things that touched Shi Yao's heart. For example, when she was on her period, Lin Jiej didn't have any sanitary pads at home. Due to her carelessness, she had forgotten to prepare them in advance. It was Lin Jiej who heard the commotion in the middle of the night and came out to ask her what was wrong. After understanding the situation, he rushed out to buy sanitary pads for her. For example, when she was feeling unwell, she could always see warm milk, hot brown sugar water, and hot ginger tea. Another example would be when she casually said that she really wanted to eat fried glutinous rice balls with sesame. Not long after, the doorbell rang. She opened the door and saw the fried glutinous rice balls with sesame that she wanted to eat. For example, when Lin Jiej was busy, she would fall asleep reading a book by his side, and when she woke up, there would always be a blanket wrapped around her. In short, time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, it was already time for Lin Jiej's checkup at the hospital. In truth, Shuyao felt that the month she had spent in Lin Jiej's house had been rather enjoyable. She thought that this happiness would last until Lin Jiej recovered and she returned to her dormitory. But sometimes, things would happen without warning, and things would go against one's wishes. Lin Jiej had scheduled a checkup at the hospital on October 1st. And that unexpected incident happened on September 30th. Chapter 585. It was a weekend, and since Shuyao didn't have to attend classes, she spent the night browsing through her Adonis Legends forum. When she woke up the next day, the first thing she did after washing up was to rush over to Lin Jiej's room to ask him what he was having for lunch. As the two of them had been living under the same roof for a long time, the unfamiliarity that Shuyao felt with Lin Jiej had already disappeared without a trace. Thus, she didn't bother knocking on the door at all. Instead, as if she was strolling through her own bedroom, she pushed open the door and rushed in. Lin Jiej, let's go for lunch." Before Shuyao could finish her words, she noticed that Lin Jiej, who was leaning against the headboard with his laptop in his hands, had a strange look on his face. She subconsciously shut her mouth, and even her footsteps slowed down as she asked, "What's wrong?" Hearing that, Lin Jiej first raised his head to look at Shuyao, and the slightly dark expression on his face softened significantly. However, his tone was still a little stiff as he said, "It's nothing." His face was as dark as a fried eggplant. Only a fool would believe him if he told her that he was fine, but judging from Lin Jiej's expression, it didn't seem like he wanted to talk about it. Since he didn't want to talk about it, she should respect his privacy. No matter how curious she was, she shouldn't pry into it. With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao replied with an "oh," before continuing to walk over to Lin Jiej's side. Before she could get any closer, Lin Jiej abruptly raised his hand and closed his laptop, as if afraid that she would see what was on it. By the time Lin Jiej was done, he realized that he had overreacted, so he hurriedly asked, "What do you want to eat for lunch?" As he spoke, he took out his phone and prepared to order lunch. Shuyao stared at Lin Jiej's laptop for a moment before reciting a list of dishes that she wanted to eat. While she was speaking, Lin Jiej's fingers swiftly tapped on his phone screen. By the time Shuyao was done, Lin Jiej had already placed his order. "I'll help you squeeze out some toothpaste." Shuyao glanced at Lin Jiej's laptop and said, "Hurry up and brush your teeth." Lin Jiej replied with an before pulling his blanket aside and following Shuyao into the bathroom. After washing up, Lin Jiej switched on his laptop. Shuyao knew that Lin Jiej didn't want her to look at the content on his laptop, so as curious as she was, she still obediently left his bedroom. Half an hour later, lunch was served. Shuyao took the food and went over to call Lin Jiej over for lunch, only to see him tapping on the keyboard with a grim expression on his face. It was as if he wanted to murder someone through the screen. Was he arguing with someone because of a disagreement at work? Shuyao was perplexed for a moment, but when she saw Lin Jiej looking at her, she quickly said, "Lunch is here. Come and eat." "Okay." Lin Jiej's voice was as calm as ever, but right after he said those words, a cold glint flashed across his eyes as he stared at the computer screen. However, he didn't continue typing as if he was smashing his keyboard. Instead, he closed his laptop, stood up, and walked over to Shuyao. Chapter 586. That won't do. I have lessons to attend. You're applying for leave. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, "There are many delicious restaurants in Chengdu. Don't you like spicy food the most?" I've already memorized all of the famous restaurants in Chengdu. Let's go there one by one. Shi Yao hesitated. Spicy rabbit head, hot pot, boiled chicken, braised quail eggs, taro chicken, kebabs. Shi Yao hesitated for a few seconds before replying, I'll give the counselor a call. If she agrees, I'll go. All right. Lin Jiej nodded gently. He picked up his chopsticks, picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork, and placed it in Shi Yao's bowl. Where do you want to go? Think about it carefully over the next few days and let me know. I'll arrange your accommodation and a private car. With food in her mouth, Shi Yao nodded her head vehemently. Also, tell me your identity card number so that I can book the plane tickets. Shi Yao didn't say a word as she munched on her food. Instead, she nodded her head like a little chick pecking at grains. Lin Jiej put down his chopsticks earlier than Shi Yao, but he didn't leave. Instead, he sat across the table and continued accompanying Shi Yao. Along the way, Lin Jiej picked up his phone to play with it. It was hard to tell what he saw, but his complexion suddenly turned awful, just like when he was looking at his laptop. Shi Yao didn't ask what was wrong with Lin Jiej, but from the tightness on his lips, she could tell that he was in a terrible mood. She didn't ask too much about the reason behind her actions. All she knew was that she just wanted to cheer Lin Jiej up. So, after eating, she pondered for a moment before suggesting to Lin Jiej that they should go watch a movie that was recently released, and it was said to be particularly hilarious on the internet. Lin Jiej didn't turn her down. He passed his phone over to Shi Yao to book the tickets, and after she was done choosing her seat, he took the phone and paid for it. Shi Yao chose the cinema in Lin Jiej's neighborhood. As it was close to the cinema, the two of them walked there. The first thing Shi Yao did when she arrived at the cinema was to run to the counter and buy popcorn and a Coke. Shi Yao had bought the tickets just in time, so by the time she was done buying food, it was already time to enter the cinema. Entering the cinema, Shi Yao held onto a popcorn that was twice the size of her face. After checking the seats, she ran over and found her and Lin Jiej seats. After sitting down, Shi Yao barely had a few mouthfuls of popcorn before the movie started. Initially, Shi Yao was still watching the movie earnestly, but 20 minutes into the movie, she realized that Lin Jiej, who was seated beside her, was actually playing with his phone, and from time to time, he would frantically type on the keyboard. She was to cheer him up, so she suggested watching a movie, but he wasn't in the mood. In an instant, Shi Yao also felt that the hilarious movie had suddenly become boring. Even though she was staring at the big screen in front of her, she was still keeping an eye on Lin Jiej from the corner of her eye. Shi Yao wasn't too sure how much time had passed, but just as the movie was about to come to an end, the phone in her pocket suddenly vibrated. She from, and and he Yao. As she was watching a movie, she didn't pick up the call. Instead, she hung up the call and replied, I'll call you back later. Chapter 587. Shi Yao had always thought that it wouldn't be a big deal for He Tian to look for her, but never in her wildest dreams did she think that it would really be a big deal. She dialed He Tian's number, and it only rang for half a ring before the other party swiftly picked it up. Yao, something big has happened. Something big has happened. He Tian had always been a fussy person, screaming for a long time when she couldn't find her phone. Shi Yao was already used to it, so she replied calmly, What happened? Did you lose your meal card, or did you eat all the money in it? Shi Yao. He Tian's furious roar sounded from the other side of the phone. All right, I'll stop talking. I'll listen to what you have to say. Seeing that Shi Yao had obediently shut up, He Tian finally got to the point. Yao, you've been on the school forum again. Furthermore, the situation this time is much more serious than before. But that's not the main point. The main point is that the person who leaked the news is a real name. On the other end of the phone, Tian fell silent for a moment before replying. You should know who the person who leaked the news is. It's Chiniran. I don't know how she managed to get her hands on the evidence of you entering and exiting the high-class residential area, but I don't know who it was who told her that you haven't returned home for the past month. Our dormitory has done a good job in keeping this matter confidential, but somehow, it was leaked out. On top of that, there's video evidence of you entering and exiting the high-class residential area more than once, causing a huge uproar in the school. When we went to the canteen in the afternoon, everyone was talking about you being a mistress. If there's nothing important, I think it's best that you don't return to the school anymore. However, this isn't the most serious issue. There are plenty of female students who move out of the university, but if this matter were to be blown out of proportion, it could create a bad atmosphere in the school. Who knows, the school might even punish you. In that short instant, Shiryao recalled the abnormal reaction she had when she woke up and saw Lin Jiej. A slight frown appeared on her forehead as she subconsciously asked, then, did Lin Jiej post anything on the school forum? Tian, of course there is. Senior Lin stood up for you a long time ago, and he even said that you were staying at his place. However, Chiniran insisted that she saw you entering that high-end residential area with a plump and old man, and she even took a photo of it. As such, no one believes Senior Lin's words anymore. On the contrary, more and more people are saying nasty things about him, and even Senior Lin is being ridiculed. It was no wonder why Lin Jiej had closed his laptop so quickly. It turned out that he didn't want her to see those worrisome things. No wonder he wanted to take her to Chengdu. He wanted to wait for the storm to calm down before letting her return to school. A hint of warmth surfaced in Shiryao's heart. She tightened her grip on her phone as she replied softly to Tian, all right, I got it. I'll take a look at the school forum later, on. It's one thing for you to watch, but Yao, you mustn't get angry. On the other end of the call, Tian stuttered, as if she still had something to say. What's wrong? Tian, if there's anything on your mind, just say it. Chapter 588. After all, it's a very embarrassing thing to be beaten up. This way, Nuanyuan won't be able to lift her head high either. Hearing those words, a sharp glint flashed across Shiryao's eyes, and the previously adorable look on her face vanished. She replied to Tian with a slightly cold, got it, before hanging up the phone. Without any hesitation, Shiryao quickly opened up the website and logged into the school forum. Just as Tian had said, gossip regarding her had already occupied the entire first page of the forum. This time, Chiniran wasn't using her previous sock puppet account. Instead, she had registered a new one, and her name was Chiniran. Amidst the comments, Shiryao first clicked on the thread that Chiniran had posted. Hello everyone, I am Chiniran. The reason why I'm standing here today to expose this matter is partly to seek revenge, but more than that, I want everyone to see the truth. There were several videos below, and they were all of her entering and exiting Lin Jiej's high-end residential area. In the videos, she was dressed in different clothes, which meant that they were taken at different times. In the last video, she was talking to a middle-aged man as they entered an elevator together. Shiryao didn't know the middle-aged man at all, but she did have some impression of this person. That day, when she returned home from school and entered the elevator with him, he said that he didn't know how to use a smartphone, so he politely asked her a few questions. Naturally, she didn't think too much about it and helped him. From the looks of it now, this middle-aged man was probably Chiniran's handiwork. The questions he asked were fake, and the photos he took were the real deal. Shiryao silently pressed her lips together for a moment before continuing to read the rest of the book. What the heck, this is so exciting. The girl who rivaled campus Adonis Lin in last year's sports meet actually became a sugar daddy. Indeed, one can't judge a book by its cover. The more beautiful a girl is, the more coquettish she is. Even though Chin Ran's behavior was really shameless last year, I believe her since she reported it with her real name this time around. However, I won't stand on either side of these two girls. I'll just watch them hurt one another quietly. Amidst the row of gossip, roasting, and self-righteous criticism, Shuyao finally saw Lin Jie's reply, "My fiancé is staying at my place. Is there a problem with that?" In the first place, Chin Ran's exposure of her real name had already increased everyone's credibility, and now that her evidence had been laid out in an orderly manner, Lin Jie's words seemed to pale in comparison. It wasn't that there weren't any spectators who were curious about the fact that she and Lin Jie were engaged, but more of them thought that Lin Jie was foolishly protecting her. How do you explain that, uncle? Look at the video, they were clearly talking and laughing. Don't say that they were just asking for directions, I don't believe it. Senior Lin, we all know that you are very outstanding, but the price of that high-end residential area is not ordinary. I doubt that you have a home there. Adonis Lin said last year that he kissed Shuyao before, which means that there's some sort of relationship between them. Could it be that Adonis Lin is embarrassed that he's being cuckolded, so he's not trying to help Shuyao but trying to salvage his own reputation? Love is a ray of light, so green that you're panicking. Chapter 589. How is Lin Jie a cuckold? The person who said those words is the one who's a cuckold. His entire family is a cuckold. Shuyao glared angrily at the green grass emoticon on the screen for a moment before scrolling down the screen to check out the comments. She flipped through several pages before she finally found the news regarding Lang Nuan that Tian had mentioned. Chin Ran, there's one more thing. A friend of mine told me about it, and it's true. It's Shuyao's roommate, Lang Nuan. Last year, when she just entered year 1, she was crowned as the belle of the faculty. She got drunk at a karaoke, and she took advantage of the alcohol to provoke a few wealthy scions in the capital. She wanted to pick them up at the airport to curry favor with them, but she ended up being despised by them. Yet, she refused to let them off, refusing to leave. She doesn't have the slightest sense of shame, and she was even slapped multiple times by them. Shuyao's eyes turned cold as she read the last part of the post. There were still many replies to this piece of news. Wah, are you for real? Is she really that unrestrained? She's really living up to the saying, birds of a feather flock together, and the second saying, one is marked by the company one keeps. Are all the girls in her dorm room such trash? They're either a sugar daddy, or they're just going to be slept with. How shameless. The girls in her dorm room, trash. As such words fell into Shuyao's eyes one after another, she clenched her fists so tightly that her lips were pressed into a straight line. If Chin Ran found her an eyesore, she could target her, but how could she implicate her friends in her? The word fiancé didn't appear in Shuyao's mind, so she forcefully suppressed it and changed it to Lin Jie instead. They're innocent. Since Chin Ran is so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. The netizens on the forum were just here to watch the show. Even if their mouths were so cheap that it made one want to slap them twice, there was no way she could really drag all of them out to settle the score. However, Chin Ran was different. With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao immediately took out her phone and sent Tian a message. Can you think of a way to help me ask Chin Ran out to the back of the dormitory building right now? There's a small forest with no one around. Tian swiftly replied to her message. I know Han Jing's roommates, and one of them seems to be on good terms with Chin Ran. I'll give it a try. Shuyao didn't respond to Tian's message. Roughly 5 minutes later, Tian sent her another 2 messages. Yao Yao, Chiniran has agreed to it. She'll be heading to the forest in around half an hour. But Yao Yao, why did you lure Chiniran out? I should have a good chat with her about life, Shi Yao replied to He Tiantian's message as she snuck out of Lin Jiej's house. When Shi Yao reached the entrance of her neighborhood, she boarded a cab, and after making her way back to school, she took out her phone and sent a message to Lin Jiej. I have some matters to attend to, so I'll be heading back to school first. After sending the message, Shi Yao knew that Lin Jiej would surely give her a call, so she quickly sent He Tian another message before switching off her phone. By the time she arrived at school, there was still roughly 10 minutes before the meeting time with Chiniran. Shi Yao wasn't in a hurry to head to the forest, so she made a detour to the school infirmary first. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.